Here we are. Oh, man. All right, look, I know some of you already like, why'd you put a spoiler review out on Saturday and not Monday? Well, because this is the Monday one. It's the spoiler conversation. I had a spoiler review that came out on Saturday, and guess what? If you saw it, you watched the spoiler review, and if you didn't see it, you waited. But now it's a spoiler conversation because I knew I was going to have it. It was going to be me and Winston and Coy, and I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. We did our rewatch series of the Spider-Man series. And by the way, it's spoilers, so there you go. And man, did we expect, we did expect this, but this was the end game, as they said, of the entire Spider-Man franchise. This wasn't just the end game of Tom Holland's. This was all of them. And we're going to talk about all of that in just a little bit. But I'm very excited to get into this. It's probably going to be a longer episode if I was going to guess. And there's so much to talk about. And if you didn't know already, if you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe. If you are brand new to it, then subscribe. If you are already part of the channel and you didn't know to hit those notification buttons, do that, please. Very, very important to do that. And the other thing, the big thing, it is on podcast form, and it is very important. If people always ask, how can I support you? How can I support you? Do it just by going to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and following. Leave us a comment. These great sponsors that we've been getting, and great sponsors, because you guys have been downloading the episodes. And this is going to be a longer one. You listen to it in the car. You listen to it at the gym, wherever the hell you want to listen to it. So, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the big thing. It is going to be myself, it is going to be Winston, and it is going to be Coy. If I could ever find the actual music to the damn episode, I'm going to get to it. I promise you. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is the big thing. Let's get to it, everybody. Come on. Look at that. All right, everybody. What's up? Big thing. Spoilers. Spider-Man. No Way Home. So many theories we put out on these shows over the last couple of weeks. So many right, so many wrong. When I say wrong, I look at Coy Jandreau.
Hey, I swing for the fences, man.
You were close.
I was a few times.
You were like, what? Spidey is going to be trapped in some Sony version. That's what you said, and yet, you were close.
It is the same conclusion. It's just a different method of getting there.
Completely different method.
So what I wanted happened. It's just I would have written it differently, and I'm happier this way. So like I got my Z, my X and Y were just different. Yeah, and that's cool because the Z is what I wanted, and here we are.
So we all love this fucking movie.
Oh my God.
I think it's my favorite, and I was just talking to Winston. When I walked out the first time, it was tied with Spider-Verse. The second time, I think it put it just over the edge. I think this is my favorite Spider-Man film of all time.
It's, I'm gonna hold back in saying that yet because of the, it's so fresh.
And I had that problem, and I still might change because I need it to marinate. Yeah. But I've never felt this way.
It's got some special moments. It's got a lot of special moments.
I have to say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and I think the reason why, there's certain elements about Spider-Verse for me that are still just untouchable, but I haven't seen it a second time yet. I feel like I might. One of the things that I think was so special about this, you remember even some of the better Spider-Man films that we've talked about over this rewatch where we're like, here's this flaw and here's that flaw. It's not to say that this film doesn't have flaws, but the things that really didn't stick the landing for us in some of these other films, even the best ones, completely did it. Yeah. For example, I guess we were talking about in Amazing Spider-Man how Uncle Ben's death doesn't have quite the same je ne sais quoi in it.
And they acknowledge that immediately.
But killing Aunt May and the way you kill him, and the funny thing is,
spoilers.
And the way you did it, I was like, oh shit. I won't lie. I was very I don't know if you heard me. You heard me, right? And then afterwards, I muttered, and I don't think you heard this. I was like, so when Mephisto coming though? Because I literally was like, if you're gonna kill Aunt May, that seems like the next natural conclusion.
Much. And what I like to do though too is similar to what I did on the spoiler review on Saturday was I want to kind of take it from the beginning of the movie and kind of venture through it because there's so many expectations to this movie, and we've had conversations. Will it live up to those expectations? And go right.
Are you not physically here?
Invisible jet.
Are you driving right now?
Actually, that wasn't actually Winston. That was Alex. Just like instead of Tom, it was Toby and shit. Also, I need to know.
We'll get there. Apparently, I gotta save it. I gotta hold it back because I got some thoughts, as you might imagine.
I'm sure you do. All right. So the movie itself starts off. What I loved about it, they told you right away the tone of this movie in the opening. with the voiceover of that you hearing Jake Gyllenhaal, ratting him out, doing the whole thing, and then the fact that that moment when everybody finds out, it's like when you're sitting at home and you do something stupid, and then somebody starts tweeting out at you about it, like, and imagine the whole world is tweeting it at that moment, and you're like, wait, you're Spider-Man, this, and he's a child,
dude,
he's a child, and so that moment to me really worked.
I agree.
I love that immediately MJ was the one in peril, because that's like it kind of represents the reality of he's up there, like literally.
Funny line too about, like, I thought your dad liked me, not anymore.
Yeah, and like so MJ's like the ground. She's the one that would encounter the stuff first, and I really love how there was an immediacy of like rescuing her and like saving her, and like there was an immediate Spider-Man moment of the web swinging through New York, which we talked about, but it was with purpose. Like they were like, hey, we know you want a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We know this is a giant Sinister Six Spider-Verse movie, but while we're here, let's give you some web swing in New York. Let's give you some MJ moments. Let's give you those things that we know you want. And then the rest of the movie systematically goes through and delivers on friendly neighborhood Spider-Man moments, but in the grandest scale possible. This did exactly what it needed to.
I think one of the things that got me is like, I didn't think the film was going to stay at 100% as far as like the tomato meter shit, but there was the very first negative review that came out that was like, you should have spent time telling us more about the characters. And I was
Watch those movies, bro.
First of all, it's been 20 years. Second of all, if not even the 20 years, the last, 5 with the 2 films. But third of all, the entire first act, if you were not aware of what the fuck was going on, connects you immediately to what's going on.
That's your one.
Oh, did I say that word?
Yeah. I love that you don't even know.
It's just a part of you.
You gotta understand. It's being Southern and black, bro. I can't help it. That just flies off the handle.
That's fair. Well, this movie, though, when it starts out, and I was, through the trailers, nervous because I like the first 2 movies a lot. And I just having a conversation with Matt Knows, he's not a big fan of Far From Home, right? That movie gets better for me. I know you felt the same way too, as far as Nose did, right? Didn't you?
No. I like it.
Okay.
It has gone down a little bit, but I still love it.
I think this movie makes that one even better.
Yes,
I liked Far From Home a lot, but what I am always, the stuff that I have said that I don't love about Far From Home is the Ned stuff of the silly, Peter, when people are in love and blah, blah, all that crap. And so I was worried going into this one. I'm like, they're going to do this Scooby-Doo Hardy Boys thing, and they're going to be in a really nice moment, and then they're going to ruin it with them. Oh, we got to put the kids together. The kids worked in this movie.
Oh, man.
They worked because of the bond. Bond that they have all together. There was some, I said it, 90% of the humor worked, 10% didn't. That's a good.
That's a great ratio. That's a rare ratio of any film.
Yeah, it's good. So, and you take as many jokes as you can, but it's even, I guess maybe because I've seen it. There were too many trailers for this movie. First of all, way too many TV trailers, everything too. Because
I stopped watching TV
because the dude moment was kind of ruined for me. The dude, like that whole thing. Like it was.
Which one was that?
The opening when
the very opening when MJ's on the set. I saw that. I was like, okay, we know that's coming. And it was a cute moment. It was cute enough because it's the pace in which everything is happening.
Yeah.
It's 100 miles an hour from how he's swinging, from like
through the sewer,
everything.
Like no, like okay, no more swinging. Okay, down. No, don't leave me up here. here. Okay, let's go in the sewer. Let's never go back down there again. Let's do regular swinging. Like but I again, I guess that's why for me, I was so befuddled by people that were like, "There's no character development," because that by itself tells you exactly how Peter is. Because he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and Mary Jane be like, "Oh my God!" Like it was so much so fast.
And it's this connection. He even says, "I'm the most famous person in the world right now,
and I'm still broke."
And it's like I'm just trying to figure out how to make
fear of mine.
Yeah, it's like how to make.
We work on the internet. That's real. That's just what we got.
Fear,
but it is. It's like how do I make all of this work? And then obviously there's this scene, the major scene where he's there with. This was the part that I still wasn't all the way on board with yet. Like, because Tom Holland, major movie star already.
Yeah.
Next stratosphere.
This performance is a showcase.
This is his best that he's ever done. But it wasn't his performance as much. It was a character choice that I was like, I don't know about this. So he's bombarded by all of this attention.
Yeah.
Right. And for so long, he's been trying to hide his identity. And now the whole world knows.
Yeah.
And it's this, and it's really like traumatizing after what just happened with Gyllenhaal.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So he gets there and he's trying to, and it's like this sitcom moment with Happy and May.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why Happy and May why they were breaking up and fighting. That was never really explained. Because remember
in the last movie, because Happy like wanted it more, and she was like trying to break it off at the feast center in Far From Home.
Really, they were trying to break it up.
Yeah,
no, she broke it off because so the same way that Ned came back with Betty. Which the other thing about that, I don't know if you knew. I'm sure you knew this, that Ned and Betty were married in the comics.
Yeah,
so that's why they kind of had that thing, and a divorce happens because of the whole that's hobgoblin shit.
Yeah, because that's
it was
enough
a nod
time,
to
but
it.
This is,
I get it.
After a plane ride,
I get it. But that was the whole thing. Is that Happy fell in love with May, and May was like, "Oh, dude, you too much." Like
he wanted something, and she was like, "This was supposed to be."
This was a summer fling.
Yeah, and then this one she says "fling" again as a callback. So that was all set up.
All right, so that was fine. But so that then fine. If I go back and watch, I don't remember that. Fine, and I have less of a problem with that. But the problem, I think that when they're sitting around and he's revealing it, even though it's a funny bit, and he's just like points and the helicopters are outside. I just didn't feel like the urgency of guys. Like I wanted to see him more like, all right, shut up, you. Like they were fighting more and trying to get back together. And I really got to tell you something more so that it was.
Well, so that's also a callback to the last movie where he was trying to not talk about stuff by talking about their relationship. Remember it with
I know, but this is different. This is different. This is your entire life crashing on you right now.
And I think his escapism is trying to focus on other people at Spider-Man. He's trying to make sure other people are good.
This is probably these are probably the only complaints you're going to really have.
And I get that. I think the other thing about it though, remember they didn't walk in and he's like busting the front door like help me. He's standing there naked because he's trying to take the costume off. And
again, funny bits.
But I think that's why he couldn't immediately get it out, and he was more concerned about trying to hide it because he was just like, no, I wasn't having the sex, I swear.
It's not something for me that no. I'm saying it's not something for me that's going to take my enjoyment out of it when I watch.
Of course,
it's just a scene that
if you compare it to the stupid thing with Ned and Betty on the plane, which I think is ridiculous and dumb, as opposed to this is cute, this is funny, there's some good bits, and it's really probably one of the few complaints you're going to hear me talk about this movie at all.
That's fair.
Because that happens and it's needed, and then there's the Matt Murdock one.
Oh,
which
so quickly.
I gotta. It was super fast. I didn't think it was coming this fast, but I gotta talk about this because the only thing to me that almost didn't work because he's like a peak human condition. He's not a super strength or anything like that. Obviously, his reflexes are there. The fact that he caught a brick at maximum velocity barehanded, that was the only
He's a very good lawyer.
No. You're not good. That was a funny line. But I was like, bro, put your stick up, like fucking, like hit it with the elbow.
That's two.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was watching
heard that one.
Yeah, no, because there was a little spice on it. I felt a little.
It had some spice. I was the only thing that I was like, bro, you're not super strength, like super stamina.
Yeah, but
so
I feel like with Daredevil, the way he's been able, he's a physical, like his fists are like he uses it, so his hand's gonna be able to endure some stuff.
Brick full speed, bruh.
I mean, it's a human throwing a brick, a human catching a brick. I think he's got it.
That didn't bother me.
It didn't bother me
because I don't know enough about the character to know whether he can do it or not, and the fact that he can still do all these
his reflexes can. He could definitely stop it.
Either way. It didn't bother me. Okay. The fact that he was there and the introduction to it, this was an introduction to the character for the only reason to say
he's in the MCU.
He's in the MCU, which I'm all good for.
Great.
You didn't need him in the movie.
No. Oh.
He wasn't necessary to the plot. It was just to let everybody know, hey, guess what? You know, if you've just watched Hawkeye, guess who's back?
Now it all ties back in.
And now it ties back in.
If only that had been a surprise.
Yeah. I mean, look.
Well.
Yep, it happened.
Does it?
Yeah.
Does it?
I said it happened. So,
but I think that moment was one of those, like, Aunt May is cool with him being a superhero. I think she knew I think she knew about Matt. To me, I sensed that reflex wasn't a surprise to May or Happy, which I dug. I feel like there was a knowledge.
You think they knew that he was Daredevil?
I think the reason that May hired him was like a certain.
Happy might have known.
Yeah,
I mean, Happy knows about all this crap.
Feels like Happy would make sense.
Only
but the
Peter
way
seemed surprised that thing got caught.
The way that Happy acted the whole time, though. It seems like he didn't. Maybe I agree with you. Maybe on May,
because it's also like her. Like, I have a superhero problem. I find a superhero lawyer. Like, and have it like my son, my nephew has this thing. Who do I get? The guy that would understand it.
And I'll tell you what, though, I'll push back. I'm going to push back against myself and say how it's not. I mean, anybody could have done. It didn't have to be Matt Murdock, but the reason why the lawyer in general was important was to let us know. I mean, because I was also worried about. All right, so this whole thing is going to be about him now. They're going to put him on trial, and they're going to say like it's his thing. Like they're going to say he's guilty of the murder. Then we got to go through a trial, and he's like, "Look, these charges aren't going to stick."
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, great." He's like, "Well, not too great because this is the world that we live in today."
Right.
it's about public opinion.
Right.
You're guilty
And
first.
we needed a lawyer to tell us that.
It's right.
We needed the speed of this. So of course,
you're guilty first on Twitter before you're guilty in court.
But I actually really, I'm saying, and it sounds like you loved it too. But
Loved
like
it.
I love that because like you said, we do not have to go through that entire.
That was great.
That entire because I didn't want to do
Too
that.
much.
It would have been a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we didn't have to go through all of that. But like you said, it does speak to what it is going on right now, where you may not be in legal trouble, but you're
in
done,
trouble.
which we get right away. When
Right
he's trying
away.
to get into college, and he can't.
And I love the idea in the back and forth of like how many times we've seen this with politics today, when he walks in to school and like half the people are cheering him and half of them are
Hannibal
booing him.
Buress,
That
like,
Hannibal
Mysterio
Buress
was
scene
right.
was hilarious.
He was dying.
I was
I
dying.
thought this was it for him because Martin Starr and JB, obviously the shrine, and then
mean, come
Hannibal.
on.
Hey, murder, bro. You die here like
delivery.
this.
His delivery was
It's so good.
He had me every time he opened his mouth because I was watching him.
Yeah.
And you just watch him as he's looking on the side and he's just like, yeah.
So, they apparently shot more stuff, so I'm really
Hilarious.
hoping that's in the DVD. There's more teacher stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was hanging out with them after the premiere. Like I was hanging out with Hannibal and JB.
Name dropper.
And like it was, and that's what I wanted to see more of was like those moments because I was at the premiere and I got to have those moments. But I wanted to have the moments. Whereas you're saying we didn't get the Spider-Man persecution in courtroom. I did want a little bit more, like maybe 5 more minutes of Spider-Man on the run dealing with ramifications. And I get why we had to move because we had a Sinister
It
Six
worked
to get to.
out.
I could have used a little bit more school personally.
Yeah, I was all right with it. I think it was a good setup because what it did for me was lead us into this next big story arc, which I can't agree with anyone who says it didn't have an arc or character.
It's
because
insane to me.
It showed more about what really Peter cares about, right? And that's his connection not only to MJ, but to his friends and the bond that they have because all he wants to do, he wants to be a normal kid. He wants to get the hell out. He wants to go to school with his friends. And the idea of no, and you knew it though. You knew the heartbreaking moment was coming. Like he's not getting into all these schools. You know it. He's not going to get in because of this. What's going down?
Well, see, the thing that was so weird to me, and this has always been a gripe for me with movies in general. I don't know about you guys when you got your letters. When I got in, it was a big ass.
Oh, it's a different. Yeah, it's a no is this and a yes is this.
Exactly.
Not just an envelope.
So yeah, not just a small envelope. That's like go.
You know when you
go
get
F
it in the
yourself.
mail.
Yeah, I caught that one.
Yeah,
There it is.
But Thanos also didn't exist in our life too. So
That's true.
In this reality, it's all one letter.
That's right. It's a variant. It's a variant.
It's a variant, right? A letter variant.
packet. It's
Letter
the
letter
packet is a
variant.
variant.
It's all digital now.
Yeah,
So
they
the
only
letter
send-
says
they
you're
only send
in.
letters here.
Go to this link.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that moment in particular, again, why that review was insane to me was the fact that everything that he cared about personally, about science, about like you said, his friends,
Yeah.
with that all being completely erased. And you're getting that same moment that Toby got, which is going to tie later in the story of like, so what do I do? Am I Spider-Man or am I Peter?
Right.
Yeah.
And it gets brought up by
how do I make sure
strangers in the
Spider-Man
movie.
theme in the
doesn't hurt
movie.
It's the
whole
entire theme.
And it's the motivation because I was curious. Well, why is he going to Doctor Strange? Just because they don't know? Because everyone knows he's Spider-Man now. Like, what's the real motivation? The motivation is not that. It's because it's affecting his friends.
Yeah.
it's not him. Like
He doesn't even come for himself.
No, because
And he tells the administration person it's not about him multiple times because he's a hero.
Because in that trailer, you're like, okay, so he's just doing it because he doesn't want people to know. That's
it's
how he's
not
going to deal with
Spider-Man.
it. It's like, no, it's not that. It's because he doesn't want. He's not selfish. He cares enough about both of his pals that he doesn't want to screw it up.
In the story this is based off of, he's so selfless that he's willing to sacrifice his love
Yeah.
for Aunt May because it's about not himself. So they did that really well in this, where it's like not about Peter. He very much doesn't want it to be about Peter. And I really dug the scene when they're talking about going to school, and Ned's like wicked crime, which as a Bostonian I needed that moment. But I really liked that the whole thing was about he's going to continue this on as long as it doesn't hurt his friends. And they do that in really subtle ways,
Right.
like, hey, we're going to live together. I'm going to do my thing as long as it doesn't.
And I
affect
like
you
that
guys.
they're also bonding with him. And they're like,
Yeah.
of course, we're you're part of the crew. And then you have Flash, who's trying to get involved now. And Flash shows up and they give him the blonde hair.
Yeah.
Oh my
and
God.
No
like,
sleep till Boston MIT shirt.
And it was funny that how that all that kind of played in because now he's accepting I also like the fact that. because for so long he wants to be Spider-Man's best friend, but he hates Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But the fact that he still, there's that great scene when he's trying to call him on the phone. He's talking to him like Peter Parker, but yet he still wants to be his best friend.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a very subtle and fun moment.
Yeah.
It was also that funny callback because to Homecoming where he's like, I know Spider-Man. And he's like, oh,
Yeah.
do you? And he's like, what did he call him? Penis Parker?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Like
Yeah.
making fun of it. So it's funny to see that. But I love that, again, the tone here is this is about Peter becoming a man and what man he's going to be. So even the fact that like I made the decision to be Spider-Man, you didn't.
Right.
You were just so I'm not going to have you suffer for any of the things that I was involved in, no matter if you were with me from the start. Like this is about me.
Yeah.
And he tries multiple times
He does.
to also be like, you're not coming with me. You're
Yeah.
not doing it. It's just me. I'm going to handle it.
Right. So before we get into ultimately what is this, after that first part of it, and the way that's all beautifully set up of why he needs to go there. That's the reason why I really enjoy the beginning and the development of it, because it's like, okay, now I know exactly why he needs to go there. But before he went there, what did he do? He was shaving his balls in a bathroom. I don't know if you guys knew that.
So fresh, so clean. Deleted scene.
He was
my
shaving his balls in the
God.
bathroom. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it's true. And you know why he was doing it? It's because it's the holiday season, everybody. And if you don't know what to get as a gift or a stocking stuffer, well, guess what? Today's sponsor is Manscaped. They have the tools to guarantee that you will win this year's stocking stuffer or the white elephant competition. Manscaped is the leader in men's below-the-waist grooming, and they have served more than 4 million men worldwide. Now, if my math's correct, that's almost 8 million balls. Get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with that code BIGTHING. Ho, 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 fellas. Naughty or nice, 'tis the season to perform. I'm loving this Manscaped for it's just getting introduced to them over the last couple of years, and I use it religiously. And I have the Lawnmower 4.0. It is incredible. The body wash, all of it. I everything that I have as far as my grooming goes to Manscaped. I love it. Manscaped's best-selling product is the Performance Package 4.0, which is at the top of every man's wish list this year. For people like, I'm good. I use a machete to crop my tomatoes. Stupid. You should really be using this, because inside of this package, you're going to find their lawnmower, the body trimmer, the best trimmer on the market for your balls, your butt, your body, and the weed whacker for the ear and nose hair trimmer. I use that often. Now, dads can't stop talking about this. The teens secretly buy it, and the women will love you for it. These are our picks for Manscaped's Surefire Wind Stocking Stuffers. Number 1, the Manscaped 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. I use it all the time. It just launched. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You got the Manscaped Cologne Infused Body Wash. Shears 2.0 Luxury 4-piece Nail Kit. The Crop Mops Ball Wipes for your stanky balls. And Manscaped Signature Cologne. These formulations are all vegan, cruelty-free, dye-free, sulfate-free, and paraben-free, so you know their products are legit. Now make sure you got to hurry on over to ensure that these wild gifts show up before the holiday season. And while you're at it, 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with that code, BIGTHING. Whether it's for you, your partner, your dad, your brother, your friend, get them something that will actually use, and it's almost sure to get a laugh. All right, 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com. Use that code, BIGTHING. Be the ballsiest gift giver this year with Manscaped. Gotta love Manscaped.
I see what you did there.
Pretty good at this, Quinn. Pretty good.
Ballsiest.
Thank you.
Spider-Manscaped, man.
Yeah. That's right. So he shaves his balls and he goes on over to Doctor Strange.
As you do.
This and I don't. This is one of the ones I'm not sure if I'm going to call you out on it because I don't remember if you said it or not, but I think you did.
Okay.
Did you think that Doctor Strange was the what if Doctor?
I was
50-50.
I was saying I didn't think so.
I played both sides, admittedly.
I think I think they did that specifically with the trailer because the wink didn't happen. If you remember in the trailer, they had him wink at it, and I think that was specifically to throw off people.
So
and they did it exactly that week that What If came. They knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing.
And I felt just from the way that the what if played out as well, it wasn't going to make sense for him to show up now because he is opted to watch over Killmonger and Ultron fighting each other.
Yeah.
So it would only happen if some major, and I think that as we'll get also to the end of the film, the post-credit, it makes more sense having seen that post-credit scene than it would for this film.
Absolutely. And so he gets there, and this was, to me, one of the funnier scenes because of the payoff. Peter tells him, hey, man, you got to do this for me. And he's like, I really like this kid. You can tell he doesn't have to say anything. He's like, I really like this kid. I like what he's doing here. He's helped out so many different times. We've been to space together. I'm going to throw him a bone. Hey, and he has Benedict Wong. And I loved that whole thing of why he's not the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, the 5-year
blip.
blip
He's
walk.
been gone for 5 years, and that relationship that they have overall.
Yeah.
Does that happen? Does Wong become Sorcerer Supreme at some point?
There's like a one spin-off storyline where it happens, but it's not like quite a what if, but it's adjacent, or it's not the scope of it, what it is in the show.
The other thing that was interesting to me, I'm fine with creative liberties and whatnot. It was just weird to just be like, we're just gonna put the same to him. Just a blizzard came through. There was no reason for it.
No.
It had nothing to do with the story.
But
it just was a
It
thing.
added a Christmas element, which I really enjoyed.
I guess
think that
maybe
was
that's
it.
what
That
it
holly
was.
jolly flavor. I was like, all right,
That was it. They needed a little winter in it.
yeah, and I was vibing.
And I was fine with it. So, and I love that Wong was like, fine, but leave me out of it. And he takes off. He's like, okay, fine. So they do the spell, and he allows him to do the spell. And you can tell Wong's been lightening up. He's been doing. I like that he makes reference to Shang-Chi without making reference to Shang-Chi. I like that
they explained a giant reason for him gathering people in like a one line of dialogue.
Yeah.
Like him being Sorcerer Supreme, what he's doing, what he's been tasked with, his high responsibilities. That was really clever.
It 1,000% makes sense why he, even though I guess they saw him in the fighting arena, as you're saying about gathering him, why he was there, not Doctor Strange.
Exactly. High responsibilities. And if he was blipped, you would need someone for those 5 years.
Right.
And it would make sense that Wong, they very smartly made Wong not a sidekick. That was really problematic in the comics in the 70s. So they've done a really good job.
Not anymore. And it just shows you how good he is.
Oh, Benedict Wong is so talented.
So good. So anyway, then there's the whole movie really starts with the spell. And as the spell's going on, and Ellis was going to have, and probably does have, a problem with, in the trailer, how it's essentially the same thing that happens with Star-Lord in Infinity War. When they have the gauntlet, they have it, and then Star-Lord screws the whole thing up by getting mad, and they could have ended it right there, right? So he's like, this is the same thing. You just would have been quiet and not said anything, and this kid's going to screw up he's going to be the reason for this, because he's going to screw up the whole
What's the whole point?
Spell.
Is that he then sacrifices
because he's a
everything
kid
for
that's kind of doing it, and he's also a kid, and the idea of, I liked it a lot, because as he's sitting there and he's saying, oh, wait a minute, but everybody? He's like, can you just do MJ? And he's like, all right, fine. He's like, well, Ned.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Aunt May. He's like, all right, that's it. He's like, happy. And then he throws it like, no, I'm not happy. I'm pissed off. He's like, no, I'm happy. And then that's the one that starts to break it. And it all made more sense at that point, and then okay, here it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it totally worked for me, because it was true to the character of Spider-Man. It was true to the character of Doctor Strange, because he's like curmudgeonly but not a bad guy. Yeah. That gives us another excuse to have that happy name be it all very much works for me. And to me, it was a maturation of him willing to sacrifice all that at the end. What happened?
You just triggered something for me, because do you remember? Because we've already gone past this, but when they're all under arrest and whatnot, the photo of
Oh my God, the mullet
with the mullet.
From Iron Man 3, the Iron Man 3 era, which there was a nice throwback.
But what's even better of that is that he goes, at least they used a good picture.
Yes, yeah, I love, there's a lot of 1-2 jokes in this. The 1-2 jokes in this really works
really
for me.
good, and it's leveled up.
God.
That's the humor. People have been
the first act is one of the
There's one
funniest.
particular commenter that I've actually really appreciated recently, and every time he writes, he's like, good review, blah, blah. The question is, did the jokes land for you? 'Cause I've been saying that, and the jokes landed for me.
There you go.
They did. That one definitely
That
landed
one
for sure. That
killed
one crushed.
me.
I also love that a lot of those are character building,
Yes.
unlike this reviewer's opinion. I really enjoyed when Aunt May and Zendaya both were like, remember, don't say anything about a lawyer.
Dude,
and
the
that
fact that
bonded
Ned,
them together.
The fact
and also
that Ned accidentally just completely snitched on himself.
Yes.
I didn't do nothing.
Which is all character
was
building.
consistent to the character.
Yes.
He couldn't keep his mouth shut for the entire trilogy. So
Yes. This reviewer's wrong is what we're saying.
Do not mind. I do not mind when jokes are given out. I mind when they're just given out to everyone when it's not consistent to character, and that didn't seem like the case to me. And there was the other thing that we'll get to that I know that it was part of the comics that Ned becomes one of the sorcerers and stuff, or it's not.
So it's not the sorcerer. It becomes Hobgoblin.
He becomes Hobgoblin.
That's what I was saying. Is like I
Which is a
wasn't
great
sure.
nod.
All right.
When the Green Goblin later on,
And-
when he's like, well, if there are other Ned leads, that to
And
me
he says,
was
"I'm not." And he says, "Don't worry, I won't get."
Or
I
my
won't
best,
turn to this
yeah,
and kill
or
you."
my
and
best
even more
friend
so then.
tried to murder me.
But the Green Goblin scene where Goblin's talking to Ned, and then Ned goes, I wonder if there's other Ned leads, and looks it up. That is a moment for me where Ned Leeds steals a Green Goblin costume and dyes it,
Right.
and that's how he becomes the Hobgoblin. So in that scene, I was like, reference.
It was very similar to me. One of my biggest critiques, where I've kind of come around to now, because I think they've developed a little bit more her personality in Kate Bishop for Hawkeye, is that I just thought she was a little too accepting to jump into it all right away and just start kicking everyone's ass and everything. But I think now she's, especially at episode 5, by the time this airs, we've already seen it. She's a little bit more like, oh, I've tried so hard. I've always wanted to be Avenger to get into that. One little line explained it. But my grandmother says I can use magic, and portals start opening up. Doctor Strange had to train.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Wong had to train, and he's just opening up portals and doing this stuff. And I was like, it's really for the big moment.
Yeah.
So I was forgiving of it.
Yeah.
But that's the type of thing where it's just like, okay, he's just now they need him to do something now too, and so he's magic, and then he gets recruited by Strange. But we'll get into that. We'll get into it because we got to get into the moment before the highway scene, which changes the entire movie.
Right.
Which happened an hour before I expected it to.
It happened a lot sooner than I thought.
Like, I thought the third act was going to happen in an hour and a half, and instead the first act is a third act. The second act is like a weird second act in a play. Like, this was a 5-act structure. This thing was something else.
Why it should, by having it in that early, it shows you why it was necessary to show it in the trailer. Because if you don't show Molina and Dafoe and these people, you can't tell anybody what this movie's about. Yeah. Because their whole, we didn't, I remember at one point when we find out a detail about why they're there in general, we both at the same time were like, oh, all right. Okay. Now that makes sense. But before we get into this highway scene, another good character building thing was this thing that ultimately leads to the end of the movie. But it's Zendaya coming up and saying, what'd you try to do here? And he's like, well, I wanted to put this spell where everybody was going to forget about me. Not you guys, but it's just like, well, I like the plan, but consult with us, homie. You know, like let us know what's going on. And he's like, and I mentioned this in my spoiler review. This is why I think Tom Holland is such a great actor. And we've mentioned this every time we mention Braveheart. I mention that scene. But the eyes.
Yep.
He doesn't really say much in that scene.
Right.
She tells him that she just wants to be involved in it. And he looks and he's just like, he's like a little smile or something too, and he's just like, this is why I love this one.
Yeah, there's so many moments of love on his face in this movie where it's just pure devotion.
Yes, and he never says it. He doesn't have to.
Right.
I would say that I know that he is a great actor, and I truly believe that, but I think this is the same thing that's potentially happening. There is a little extra oomph. The same way that when you had Garfield dating Emma Stone, because you are actually
the real
there,
chemistry. You see real chemistry.
You can tell he's not having to pull it.
Right.
It's just
he just loves Zendaya.
Yeah.
Like he just looks at her because he loves her.
Right.
And then we get to go like, oof.
You feel it.
Like,
You feel it. He does a lot of things in this movie that were real emotion, from love to grief to a lot of different things that he's just on another level. To rage. There's so much he does in this movie.
He's so Peter Parker in this movie.
You know what's a bummer?
Just insane.
What's a bummer is I was talking about it with Merle when we were on Big Thing, and we were talking about just in general Oscar movies and Academy Awards and how it's very rare the fantasy movies and comic book movies.
But he deserves it for this, dude.
I agree. I think
this was as good as The Impossible or whatever what incredible
he was
disaster movie was. Yeah, The Impossible.
He will not be nominated for this movie.
No.
But he should be. Should he win it? No, he shouldn't beat Will Smith for this. I think Will Smith was doing a lot more.
Spider-Man's Andrew Garfield.
Or Andrew Garfield.
I think they should both get nominated.
But I also think that Dafoe should get nominated, to be honest with you.
We'll get there. That was one of my highlights. I was like,
Dafoe changed my perception of his Osborn dramatically. But so then that leads to the highway scene, because he knows at that point, okay, I got to take care of my friends here. I don't give a shit if I get in or not.
The fact that Edith is down, that was super interesting.
Yeah,
right. The suit.
They did. Yeah, we've touched on it, but I want to say very clearly, this movie read every single flaw we had with the MCU Spider-Man and went, hey, how do we do that in story and evolve it?
Example.
It made Spider-Man not reliant on the spider suit.
Right.
It made him reliant on spider powers. It made him reliant on spider sense in a new way and use spider sense in a different way. It involved science in a way that was actually integral to the character, not Stark science. It removed him from the Avengers because he had to do things in his own way, and it made Peter Parker responsible for his own responsibilities is kind of redundant, but he was responsible at all times instead of being like, oh, someone's going to catch me.
Right.
So it was the Spider-Man movie we all wanted.
This wasn't Tony Stark Jr. that people had
any
problems
point.
with.
And they literally made that joke. There was an Iron Man Jr. cover.
There was.
So I felt like the screenwriters literally read the message boards for the last 3 years and was like, let's write the movie that fixes this.
But in a different way than The Rise of Skywalker did.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Oh, 1,000%. And it did it where it felt less of like, we hear you. It felt more of like, oh, really? See,
we can do both.
At this point, let it fly.
Oh, really? Really? You had a problem with Iron Man Jr.?
Yeah, we're going to call you out on it. It did that with, I mean, we'll talk about it in the third act, but it did it in such a way that it improved all 7 Spider-Man films in a way that felt like, oh, we're going to make all of them your favorite Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it really made the ultimate series.
It was. Well, that's why when John Watts said that it was the end game, when you see the movie, you go, ah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Not for the 3, but for all of them.
And if you can, like, Endgame's great and Infinity War's great and the first Avengers are great because it makes B and C list characters A-list.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could make an A-list character like Spider-Man a plus list.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this might take Spider-Verse for me personally, because it's a character I already love. It's a character that I've enjoyed even the flaws and pros of other films, and it elevates a character that is already the greatest comic book character to me to another level.
I can't wait till we finally get to the reveals because I really need to ask you some questions.
So in order to do that,
We're on the bridge.
Yeah, in order to do that, let's get back to
on
the bridge. So get back to the bridge, and when they're on the bridge, and before that even happens, then we hear the boom, boom, and from the trailers, like, oh, here it comes. So, and the fight was incredible.
Yes.
A lot of fun to watch because it was classic Doc Ock versus Spider-Man in a very different way.
Yep.
And you think your new fancy suit's going to save you, whatever. And he's going through this whole thing and he's chasing after him. And the scene where he goes off the bridge and he comes back and she has that moment. It was a Marvel moment where she's just like, and she yells at him. And it's like, it's funny, but still is like, okay, so this part we're not going to try to take too serious. It's just kind of goofy. And then he takes him down. And this is the part I really loved, the separation between the Raimi movies and this was that you're playing with a different Peter Parker with different technology here, buddy. So you got
your butt whooped.
Yeah, so when he tries to go in and then Peter realizes like, oh, I can take over this guy's thing like that.
Yeah.
and he takes over it like, and the guy's like, wait, what the hell's going on? Raimi's movie's over.
And that felt like a comic book to me in that when you go to other worlds in comic books, it's always like more advanced technology. Yeah. And in this, they always talk about like, oh, this world has magic. This movie has this technology. This world is, and I was like, oh, our world 2000 would feel like it's got crazy technology and magic. And it was really weird in our reality moment, in a Matrix moment of like, to the 20-year-old self of the Sam Raimi universe, this would feel like exponentially better technology.
I won't lie. I definitely had an Edith moment because obviously this is still Stark Tech doing this. So there was definitely a moment where I heard Tony almost like as like a Spidey ghost being like, he was like, even in death, I'm the hero. I just saved you once again. Yeah. So like, it was great.
It was great. And it worked out really well. And then
again, Spider-Man using science, I really enjoyed.
And he brings him up on the bridge and and then it's like, wait, oh, here he comes.
Yeah. Right? Again, quicker than I ever would have dreamed.
But the great line that they call back to was when, and it really resonated to me, was when Doc Ock is like, Norman? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, of course he knows who he is. He remembers all that stuff.
He hated him.
Yeah.
And then when and respected him at the same time, knowing how brilliant he was and all that. So and watching it, and then he did disappear into the well, Doc Ock disappears into the prison.
Yeah.
And then we find out more. Doctor Strange lets him know, and then you have that reveal of what's going on. This is the scene that you and I were like, oh, so everyone who knows that you're Peter Parker can come through. We cut it off. We cut off the gate, but there's a bunch of people here who know Peter Parker in general.
Yep.
Is Spider-Man.
So here's the only thing that maybe I missed something. When did Lizard and when did Sandman know that? And when did Electro know that? Because Norman and Doc Ock, because obviously he reveals it to Doc Ock right before he decides to save him.
Lizard knows it. Lizard knows it from, remember when he sees the stupid camera and it says
that's right. It says property of Peter Parker.
And then he stalks him.
That's correct. But when did Electro know?
Electro knows through Max. I mean, not through Max, through Harry, because Harry tells him about because of Gwen and everything.
Okay,
too.
So when did Sandman know?
That's the one that I know.
Sandman because of my uncle Peter. You killed my uncle.
Oh, you're right.
Look at you! I
just watched these movies on Rewatch,
bro.
Now available on this very channel.
Right.
I
am really
that was
Schooled your ass.
and like with the speed, the expediency
Boom,
too.
boom, boom,
like
boom.
I pieced together
sorry,
2.
Daddy. Damn.
Yeah, it took me like longer to put 2 together than you could have 3 and ready with it. I was like Sandman.
Yeah.
Beautifully done.
That was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me finish the
He's been
fucking-
watching some
I
movies.
guess we should
All right,
get out of
I'm gonna
here,
go ahead and
bro.
lean
Like,
back.
let's
I think.
just-
All
I
right,
already-
do we
well,
have
I also
a
did-
spoiler review
Sorry,
episode
peace
2?
out. I already did my 45 minutes. Sit down.
That's it, you guys.
But yeah, so then the prison scene happens with all this happen, and then we said, okay, so everybody who's coming through now, great reveal of it because now we know, okay, that's what the story is.
Yeah.
That's it. So they're gonna send these people back, and then you start thinking, well, wait a minute. What does that mean then? Does that mean when they bring? Because you know at that point that Toby and Andrew are coming. Plus the fact you just knew at this point how they were going to bring them in, not if anymore. At no point in the movie, because there were some people that were goofing, they're not going to show up. At no point in the movie did I think they were not going to show up. Right
After we explained what the spell became,
you knew it.
It had to happen.
What I was curious about was, as far as timelines go,
Would it be a cameo? Would it be?
no. What version of them was coming in? Because if Doc Ock clearly is coming in right as that machine, because he says it, he's like, I had him and I was ready and I had the machine and then I'm here. And the same thing with Electro, right before the moments that they died, that's when they got there. So then I'm like, well, wait a minute, does that mean that we're getting a 2012 version of Andrew? Are we getting? But then it realized that it's very Spider-Verse-y in how it was, because that's explained later on, which we'll get to.
Well, I think the other thing about it too, you can look at it in that regard, is that if we're in 2021 for this film, that was Toby in 2021, that was Andrew in 2021.
Well, no, it's not 2021. It's 2025 or something. Because remember,
2023.
Flip.
Yeah,
2023. Because 2018
Sorry.
I'm kicking your ass today.
You really are. I don't know what's going on.
SCHMOEDOWN mode right here. He's like, I got
really
you.
are.
It's Marvel Geek variant.
Apparently, what the hell? You must have really loved this film.
I did.
But I guess that was the whole thing for all of them, since that's where they did. Because the Sandman, that wasn't Sandman like. Because remember, he didn't die.
He just stuck in sand.
He just went off to. If I don't forget, then he just ride off in the sunset.
That was the only thing that, out of all those questions that we just had, that he said they came here before their moment of death. He's the only one that didn't come their moment of death. They didn't really acknowledge that.
But I think that's the whole thing, though. It's because in 2023, in his universe, he's with his daughter. Remember, the only thing he says is, I need to get back to my daughter right now.
Right.
That's it. Which is also weird, though, because she'd be an adult. So
well,
maybe
it just depends on where at what point. We
don't know when he got pulled.
We don't know when he got pulled. We're not really sure.
But based off of where the Spider-Man got pulled.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
No, but I think that's a different timeline.
They're not connected.
It's not a time pull.
because remember, because Alfred Molina got pulled
because he was dead. I get that.
But he got pulled in 2004, whereas Goblin got pulled in 2002. Right. Whereas Toby looks like he got pulled, 20 years later because he looked 50 as fuck.
But that's my point. I think that's the Sandman that got pulled in 2023. That's what I'm saying. Is that based off the fact that since
that wasn't
Toby,
explained. It wasn't.
No, I agree with you. I think if they had explained it also with Toby and Andrew, that would have been enough to explain it for Sandman. But they never explain it. We just know it based off of their.
Well, they talked about the things that
know it though.
They talk about like the things that happened to them after, and it looked like a long span of time.
Right. That's what I mean by we know it, because they give us examples of what they've been dealing with since they've been gone.
Because he said, I want to get back to my daughter, but he also wanted to get back to his daughter in
the three.
Right.
And also he might not age because he's sand now.
He's sand.
That was my thought.
Who knows? Either way,
we haven't gotten there yet.
We haven't gotten there, but
we got to talk about one of the most visually stunning
please.
scenes in perhaps the entire MCU. Spider-Man fighting Doctor Strange was the most
it was amazing.
Ditko thing I've ever seen in my life.
it was amazing.
It was stunning.
And that comes after all the other reveals here. So when we get to this whole thing, the setup of it, and he's like, okay, so basically what you need to do now is you need to use this thing. You need to find, I'll find some people, you find some people, put them in the prison, then we're going to send them back.
Yeah.
So, and this was, and we forgot about the Scooby-Doo moment, right? When they're all talking to him.
Scooby-Doo this-ish. Yeah.
So that, to me, even though I don't think it's a great bit, it played better with the curse than it did on TV.
It also played better in context with Zendaya getting to actually do her work.
It did.
Because it worked off Zendaya. It did not work off the void of the trailer.
Yeah,
that joke does not land if one person's like...
So he goes and they do it and they get it. And then that's why, again, I like that he does it on his own. They're watching from the side. They're there together. They're not trying to take him on the adventure with them, but they can do it from the side. Love that. So he goes in there, and then that's when we start to figure out we're going to get Sandman and Electro.
Yeah, that Sandman scene.
So the Sandman scene I loved because it does take the essence of what Thomas Hayden Church brought to that character, and why we always said we wish he would have just been the guy in general, because he had the most depth in Spider-Man 3 at all. And he's trying to help Peter.
Yeah.
He's trying to help him out. And then the fact that he got there in general, that he was there to help out. Electro, in the beginning, I had an issue with, because to me, this is what it felt like, and I don't know if it's true or not, just how it felt. He comes in, he's blue, and then he turns into the Electro, more of the traditional look that he's got, but he's not Max anymore. He's Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
And he's cracking jokes like Jamie Foxx. He's just, and I get it, you transfer it over here now, and now you're cool, or you feel this power, you like it. But my problem was this, and I said this to you in the screening. It felt to me like Jamie Foxx was like, I'll come back, but I don't want to play the character like that anymore. I want to play him a little bit more cool.
I almost guarantee that.
I went back, and because I just wanted to see, knowing that it was death moments, I just went back and looked very quickly at the final fight scenes for people. So I don't know if you remember, by the time that he actually meets the Harry in Amazing, he has become Jamie Foxx. That the transition happened. So early on, he's super nerdy. He's like,
it did feel in that movie that I was like, this happened quickly. So I do remember there being like a very Jamie Foxx conclusion.
So by the time that final battle happened, he had become Jamie Foxx,
which is fine as far as the look.
His teeth.
It was less about the look for me and more about the attitude.
But I'm saying the attitude is there because if you go back, remember he's getting
cracking jokes.
I promise you, he was getting tortured by the dude at Oscorp.
But he was more like this, and he was more like sinister, and he was Jamie Foxx and just cracking jokes.
For me, he was like a 7 out of 10 Jamie Foxx and Amazing. This was a 10 out of 10 Jamie Foxx. I wouldn't have minded a couple scenes of transition into like him getting more confident with power.
Right.
Like just like a 7 to a 10, like a 3.
I didn't mind him getting there. I just wish he would have got there.
Sure.
But I think that
because I do agree with what you said about the end, but I do think that was not quite full Jamie.
No.
It would have been nice to see a little bit of a tick.
But I did love where he because I was like, okay, if they do this the entire movie, then it's just going to be Jamie Foxx. But I think that he gets out of that pretty quick.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
Once his motivation comes to try to get that Stark power thing and try,
he goes back to more maniacal comic villain.
His addiction to it, because he never really wants to go back.
No, he cares about the power.
He's convinced about it from the whole way through. So he's got to be, he's very reluctant when that whole box.
Also, I really appreciate the fact that we got, Doc Ock, who's got the crazy because of the leg still. We've got Green Goblin, who we immediately wonder what his motivations are.
Is that a thing? Electro doesn't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And I'll tell you why. Because at the end of it, at the end of this film, remember, Andrew comes down, pulls his mask, and goes, "You're white? I thought Spider-Man would be black." So he didn't know.
Doesn't know. He knew his face because still.
But he knew his name
is Peter Parker.
Okay.
Which is the way the spell works.
Yeah.
All that matters is a spell.
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily know what he looks
Peter
like.
Parker might be a bad black kid.
I just thought I caught you, bro, because I was like, no, because that was a massive moment.
Because if Harry says
manager challenge has been revoked, the manager challenge has been thrown out. I'm sorry about this round. Points go to Kristian Harloff.
But I also think that joke was very funny. That was a Jamie Foxx joke that was probably
no. That was a Miles Morales joke. That was a Miles Morales joke. That was a Miles Morales. That was not at all. That was
we needed a black Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. All set up for Miles.
Not that part of it. But just that first line of "I always thought you were." Because then he said, you're making reference to Miles.
But that's what I'm saying, though. That Electro that we saw is the same Electro that Miles fights, the blue, full blue. No, so I'm saying, so knowing that, just being from that universe, that was more of a comic nod to the fact that the Spider-Man I fight is Miles.
So, but either way, Electro gets put into that, and they have this whole thing where Doc Ock is trying to figure out. Oh, and there is that line that we didn't really mention before that I still think doesn't work very well. It's one of my least favorite jokes. It's like, your name is Dr. Octavius, whatever, too. Like, it's pretty lame.
Well, they lean into, like, I love the one that lands better, that is the same joke, is you got to be careful where you're falling. The falling.
Hilarious.
That was great.
That was like one of the best lines in the Spider-Man movies, period.
That was
but
funny.
I do feel like they tried to give each one that line except Sandman. Like, each villain got a self-deprecating, we're a comic villain line.
They all played.
Otto's just didn't land as well as the brilliance of the falling line.
Yes. And
who had the falling line again? I'm trying to
Jamie Foxx.
It was Jamie
Foxx.
Foxx.
Yes, it is.
We got to be careful where we fall, I guess.
I fell in a bunch of electric eels, and I fell in a super collider or whatever. It's
and
like,
then,
you got to cover where
because you got sideways Thomas Hayden Church dryness, juxtapose Jamie Foxx like horrible bosses. Got to be careful where you're falling.
Speaking of him, though, Sandman, what I thought they played very well is that he doesn't, and he says it as much. I don't trust anybody, because every time he tries to do something right,
he gets betrayed.
And he got betrayed again. So he thought where Peter was, he gets put in that prison, and it's just like, and then Jamie Foxx even says to him, "You chose the wrong team."
As I was saying in my little mini rant was each villain lands mid arc from where they left off, which is so genius because it's a movie about second chances, and the movie's about giving second chances to an almost Sinister Six. We've got 4 different villains getting second chances and then self-actualizing or not. You've got a villain that was wanting power, getting power. You've got a villain that was wanting control, getting control. You've got all these things landing while you're juggling all this stuff. So the character arcs that people don't feel like landed, I think they missed the point.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to make a bet on which villain was the one that really was going to deliver, a lot of people would say maybe Doc Ock. But
Green Goblin all day.
Well, listen, as far as making bets and figuring it out, you should, before you even do that, you should do it on DraftKings. And what you need to do on DraftKings, for everybody who didn't already know about DraftKings, is phenomenal. We've been working with them for a while, but it is Christmas time. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, has a gift that'll certainly put you in the holiday spirit. New customers can bet just $5 on any NBA team, and you can win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. It's a great way to get some extra jingle in your pocket. So all DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also get in the Christmas spirit with the holiday free bet surprise. What is that? Everyone will get a free bet up to $50 instantly, as DraftKings gives away up to $10 million in prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use that promo code BIGTHING. Bet just $5 on any NBA team, and you can win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. That is the promo code BIGTHING this Christmas week at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants to help, call the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Gambling Disorder Helpline at 800-270-7117. That's 21 and over. Michigan only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full terms and conditions. All right.
Yo, Coy, you want to hear how evil Kristian is?
What you got?
He sent me a birthday text, me like, happy birthday, man. And I was like, oh, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. I'm like, I'm in Vegas right now. I was like, do you want me to place a bet for you or anything? He's like, oh, that's nice of you. Yeah, I might have you go place a $100 bet that the Giants beat the Cowboys just so you have to say it out loud.
And I was like, with full awareness that they're probably going to lose.
Just for that, because you wanted that feeling.
Did you do it or forget?
You didn't tell me to do it.
I wanted you to do it.
Oh, that's
If you had told me to pull the trigger, I would have done it.
You know why? Because they're going to win now because I didn't.
Because you didn't do it.
Yeah,
so I mean,
it's like the
kind of
Tony
win
Soprano
then.
scene when he's going through that mush.
So your soul gets to win.
thing.
You get to win here because your team, and you get to know that.
Whatever.
Speaking of winning as a villain,
yeah. So good transition. Look, Dafoe crushes it. You know, because
my God.
Willem Dafoe is one of my favorite actors for sure. He's a great actor. He always brings it. As we talked about on the Rewatch series, and by the way, if you didn't know about our Rewatch series, all the Spider-Man movies is a playlist. After you're done with this one, you can go back and look at our entire Rewatch series. Willem Dafoe is, because of the Raimi tone, right? He's always like, ha ha, in every scene. That's gone.
Yeah.
He's
terrifying.
still big. He's still big.
But he's big in a way that makes sense.
And it's like this craziness that's going on in his head and it's also that part of Norman Osborn that you felt when to the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, that he was like comforting and treating him like his son. That was there.
Which is why when we first see him over at Feast with Aunt May and he's like, oh, please help. Yeah. I'm like,
still in the
bro,
donuts.
I literally was like, nah, bro, I remember where we left you. You did that right before you threw the glider into Peter.
Right.
Or you attempted to.
Right.
This is a sham. I didn't believe it. And then, this was what was so brilliant by Dafoe and Watts to do this. They then spent the next 30 minutes to an hour suckering you in and you're like, okay, maybe we're good.
Yeah.
Maybe we're good.
I bought it, man.
He really is okay. We're good. Oh my God, here it is.
And we'll get to the reveal of how they figured that out, because that was genius. And it was terrifying. But the idea of him, he's like, I'm somewhat of a brilliant scientist myself. Like,
so,
callback line. Yeah.
Such a great callback.
The callback.
Didn't you want, though, back to formula?
Oh, that's the one line I was missing.
I was waiting.
To keep name dropping, when I was interviewing Willem Dafoe at the premiere,
God, this bitch!
I mentioned that line, and it was before I saw the movie.
Formula?
No, I mentioned the something of a scientist myself line. I was like, "You're actually one of the first memes." Blah blah blah. Something of a scientist myself, and he smirked at me with that Green Goblin smirk. And not only now do I know why he smirked, but also like to have the Green Goblin smirking, because it wasn't Willem Dafoe smirking; it was the Green Goblin smirking. So there's footage of me going like, Like, I actually got the chill, and I now know he was setting up for my interview. That moment happens on camera, and it's for all of us. It was such a
nice moment, and he does it, and he comes in. It's just working together with him, and I love the idea that the Doc Ock that we know, and we're not really talking enough about Alfred Molina, who's such a brilliant actor, but how he played it very similar to what he took off in 2002 and why people love that performance so much. And everybody, no matter if you think it's overrated or if you think it's the best superhero movie of all time, there's no one that doesn't say that Alfred Molina isn't great. And he carries that over here.
I think what Watts did and what Feige did and all these actors, I think they when they offered them to do this and they were like, this is what we want to do. They, like you said, the same way they read the comments about how do we change the rest of this Holland series to make it better, I think they said, okay, what works? And it's like, Alfred, I don't think you need to change anything, bro. I think you're fine. I think you know, Dafoe, I think the craziness is good, but it was too how do we keep the craziness and tone down the camp? And they went through each character.
Well, you can tell the directing. Because
I'm so excited for Fantastic Four now.
Yeah, well,
because of John Watts directing. Well, dude. Well, John Watts is going from Well,
Willem Dafoe is a brilliant actor, and you can tell he took the direction that Sam Raimi gave him, and that was the tone of the movie.
It fit the movie.
It fit the movie.
This is why it's not rewatchable.
This fits this movie, right? From what we're doing here, and because if he would have done that completely over the top, because even when he's talking to him, and by the way, they pulled off what the Last Jedi couldn't, and that's why you smash the helmet. He smashes the helmet, and the reason why he smashes the helmet is the same motivation. They didn't want to keep Adam Driver's face covered for the whole movie.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to keep Willem Dafoe in that thing the whole entire time.
And it doesn't fit the tone of this universe.
No, it doesn't fit the tone of it, plus the fact they can put the hoodie up, make him look more like the old school character.
I was glad you recogned it. I wasn't
sure.
Come
on, man.
I was just making sure, buddy.
He knew how all of them almost died and knew Peter Parker.
I mean,
come on, he's on it right now.
You got a point, but the fact that you were able to get closer to the original costume, I thought was great.
Yeah. And Willem Dafoe's face is closer to the original.
Remember, it suckered us in because as an audience member, we're like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You are putting
donuts.
You're putting that was the hint. Yeah. That was the hint. When he stole the donuts, that was enough to let you know he's still psycho Norman.
Well, it was still there, right? It was still there when he was able to do it. And there was that nice moment to where, and it also sets up more about Aunt May, which is like, we got to help people here.
Yeah.
Can't do it. So
my God, Aunt May in this.
I know,
the way they make Feast a character, the way they make Aunt May the reason. I mean, we get to the moment, the sad moment, but the way they make Aunt May his beating heart of compassion, like we hadn't had with a lack of Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
What they do here, again, going back to my systematically fixing things, is they give us an Uncle Ben for this universe that we've already met, so we care so much more.
Yeah.
And it makes us retroactively love all the beats with Marissa Tomei in other movies, because she's always been compassionate, always been caring. This is the first time we get full scenes of it. We get to actually live
so much of it, and it basically is the reason why he then says, because he is still this. There's that anger isn't there, right? It's like I just watched West Side Story, both of them, twice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it recently, the whole point of the movie is that Maria and Tony are so in love, and they're just, everyone else is consumed by hatred, right? And consumed by this anger, and they aren't. Right, they would just want to get the hell out of it, and they just want to be in love. By the time that, spoiler for people who haven't seen it, by the time Tony dies, Maria now has that anger, and she picks up the gun, and she's like, I can hate now, so I can kill too. I can do that also.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what happens to Peter in this. He's consumed by love throughout the whole entire movie, and he's consumed by it. So when he's trying to help, it's all legit. And then that moment, such a great moment when they finally, as they're doing the experiments in the apartment, to Happy's apartment, and they're going to work on everybody, and Alfred Molina is the first one, and they cure him, and he goes like, thank you, my boy. And he looks at him, and then he looks at Norman. He's like, Norman, we're back. And then this is the whole point of Electro. Well, Electro, he doesn't want to do it. He's doing it. Yeah. He's going along with everybody else.
He keeps staring at it. He's like, I don't know if I want to
do this. Yeah. And it's Sandman who goes, just chill out.
Yeah.
Just I think it's either the Sandman or is it or I'm pretty sure it was Sandman.
Sandman, because he's the voice of like.
Hey, Sandman's like, chill out. Just do it. Just relax, and we're gonna figure this all out. And look, it worked on him, and then it plays into that moment. Man.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm leaving anything out, but
we skipped the Doctor Strange moment, but it's okay.
We skipped the Doctor Strange.
I did that in my spoiler review
so
too.
There's a 5-minute sequence in this, which this is a spoiler talk.
Very important. Very important.
That is probably the best visual representation of Doctor Strange comics I have ever seen. I love Scott Derrickson; he's a fantastic director, but I feel like the Doctor Strange movie had to do so much. We didn't get sequences like this. This sequence ends with science. It ends with Peter Parker using science
what's
against
better than
magic and beating Doctor Strange.
Science.
Math.
Yeah.
But like he uses the Peter Parker brain to take out the most powerful sorcerer, maybe Wong is right now, but you know what I'm saying? And he does it in
Only
a way
in
that's only in title. I mean, come on, let's be real. But he does it in a way that is playful. He does it in a way that entire sequence is both of them fighting, which always happens in comic books. Every comic book is like, instead of teaming up, they're going to fight first, then team up. We got that entire sequence. And these are two creations from Steve Ditko and Stan Lee from the same year. Right. These characters have been tied together in their own interesting way, and now in the true Ultimate Spider-Man movie, for my money, they get to interact in a way that is so authentic to both their characters and elevates both of them in the MCU.
Dude, the best moment was watching that fight with Kristian where he knocks him out of his body. And he was like, Kristian at first thought it was really campy that like Spider-Man was, and I was like, no, dude, that's a spider sense.
And it's dope.
I thought you were like, what the hell?
No.
Okay.
And I also like when at one point
spider
Benedict
sense
starts trying to do two hands.
I said that's hilarious. Because he's like the idea. You did point out, you're like, look, the spider sense. Because you said you can see
the lines.
You can see the lines. No, I love them.
Oh, okay, my bad. I thought you said that part was campy. My bad.
No.
The second time I watched it, so it's like a 5-second scene, but the first second he's like using one hand, and then the last time he tries to do both, and Spider-Man does this like swoopy move that is literally from the comic books. Like, and it was the one time I was like, oh, that's why SB CGI sometimes.
Yeah,
because he does this.
Well, but I also
so
it was such a great Spider-Man moment also because he then says he goes, that was really cool. Just don't do it ever again.
Yeah. And him swimming gleefully back into his body, like it's so Spider-Man. So that whole Doctor Strange sequence, like to me, that could have been the movie, and I'm glad it wasn't because this was amazing. But I did see like, oh, this is what this could have been. And how they're going to advertise.
Yes, and that was why when you see in the trailer like the Inception part, you know, with all the buildings, and he goes, where are we? He's like, we're in the mirror dimension. And like, great. Okay, great explanation of it. Makes so much more sense too. And then him trying to play it out going,
this is just a blah, blah, blah. I don't remember the word because I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, exactly.
So then he, you know, and then, yes, we left that out. So we get back to the apartment when
they're doing more science.
When it all goes down, right? And then it's Doc Ock, Norman, so we think, and Peter, and the spider sense goes off. And it's first J. Jonah Jameson comes in.
So we think,
wait a minute, wasn't it? I thought it was from Jonah, but it was we're watching the tick of Electro, like his thing's about to go off. Yeah, so they're all there.
They're all there. I'm just saying, but they're in that one room. They were in a side room.
Got it.
And we also
the great comedy scene with Jamie and him, and he's like, I'm because he's like, I have one question. Are those your Legos? And that whole scene that was worth the getting to the Jamie stuff quickly because I needed that moment.
It was. And then the Lizard is in the van, doesn't want to have anything. The Lizard's another one. He's not. He wants nothing to do.
He wants to make everybody a lizard. He made that very clear multiple times.
That was funny too. He's like, I can make you so much better. He's like, why? Make me a lizard? Like, yes. It was good.
It was so much fun.
It was really good. Man. So, and they had that like whatever's going on in the van at one point. And people walk by, they go, "What's going on in there?" With the lizard and
with the feast logo.
And then J. Jonah Jameson,
the Forest Hills Movers written over with feast was so like my Spidey heart.
Well, J. Jonah Jameson comes in. And now he's and this is the whole thing. He's been trying for the whole time to really expose Peter, expose the whole thing.
While you're bringing up J. Jonah Jameson, the thing we didn't talk about with him is the fact that he is some schmuck in his basement.
Oh, the green screen
and then he's got the full studio once he actually drops that. But that was amazing.
That reveal when they pulled out, and I was like, oh, he's a YouTuber. Like I was like, oh, I've done this. Yeah. This is rough, JJ.
Well, it's very, very different from what we've seen in the past. But he goes there and he's got his crew with him, and they're just ready to set him up because they know something's going to happen. They know they're going to be able to expose this kid finally. So we get to it, and then the spider sense goes off. And as an audience member, you're like, what's he sensing?
Yeah.
What is it? And then he's looking, and because what they did so brilliantly is because even Willem Dafoe was looking around like, what are you hearing?
Yeah.
And then you're like, what's he hearing? What's happening? And then he's like, something is wrong. Something is off. And he's just moving around looking, and then and he hits Willem Dafoe. Like,
and then we finally hear that laugh, that beautiful.
You just know it, and that speech that he gives.
Oh man!
And you understand
while fighting him. Honestly, I know you love the Doctor Strange, fight, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
To me, this was even before the last fight. This was the fight of the movie for me.
Oh, just because the physicality.
But not only the physicality, it was bone chilling. Yeah. Because then there's points where like Dafoe is slamming him through floors.
When Spidey has the jump off the wall ricochet and he's punching him in the face and he's gobbling laughing in your face.
But even before that, even before it pops off, it's that speech that he gives right before they start fighting, where he's just like he knows what he's going to do, and then that's how he's able to convince both Jamie
Electro,
and
yeah.
Electro and
He rallies the
Sandman,
troops.
and he's just like, you know, what does he say? Something along the lines of like, we're kings or
We're
whatever,
gods.
God,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then Jamie's like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
And then even Sandman's like, and you're like,
And that's
oh,
straight
no,
up
it's
Ultimate
just-
Spider-Man, by
Yeah.
the way. His outfit, the speech,
Everything.
and he's the one that gathers the Sinister Six in the Ultimate Universe.
Right.
They just did it.
It was so great. So and then the fight happens, and he's kicking his ass the whole way through. He's trying to figure a way out of it, and everybody's kind of taking off. And now J. Jonah Jameson gets his footage. He's able to do it. The Lizard goes out, and you're like, oh, this is where it all goes down, right? You know it from the trailers alone, stuff you're gonna see. And then we get to the moment, right?
Yeah.
So the fight's happening. He's getting choked out. It's over, and May comes in. And so we just watched Matrix recently, and again, just for people who have not seen the third Matrix, as a spoiler for you. So there's a scene at the end of the Matrix, the third movie, and as Neo and Trinity are together, there's like a quick crash and a quick shot. If you pause it, you will see Trinity get impaled, but it's quick.
Yeah.
Same thing here.
Yeah, I noticed on my second watch.
So
I was
when
looking for it.
So when the glider comes in,
I didn't see her get impaled. I just saw her
you get hit.
get hit,
I mean.
and I was like, "That's enough."
She got tossed by the glider.
Trinity got impaled, but
Got
you
it.
still see that she got hit hard enough that you know it's going to be a problem.
Which is why because at first I was like,
I bought her acting the first one.
I bought it at first too, and I was like, but that doesn't make logical
knew
sense.
she
That
was
thing
done.
was going like she
Yeah.
must be dead because that thing was going like 60 miles per hour.
I knew it was over.
There's
Like there was going to
no
be some
way.
kind of. I just didn't know when it was coming, but I knew there was going to be a blood reveal.
Yeah.
Like whether it was like a blood drop started to come from where she was
Right.
talking, or ultimately what happened and where he goes and he just sees it's over.
Yeah.
But she's just trying to be that calm presence she always has been for him.
Yeah.
And it's just this is where the acting and everything kind of really comes from Tom Holland. This what he does here, he just makes you feel it. There's another scene I'm going to talk about in a moment, but this particular scene, what he's able to do and the emotion, and then Favreau coming in and he looking at Favreau. Favreau knows. He doesn't have to say anything. He just knows, like right then and there, and that it's tragic. And the way that Tom, like we've seen death scenes a million times over if you watch enough movies. There's something that this kid does, and the way he's like, "Come on, cut it out. Let's do it. Like, come on." It almost reminds me of like Simba, you know. And he's like, "Come on, cut it out," and it's all he has. There is no Ben. We find out. There really, at least not.
Yeah, and at the first
she says
watch,
it,
I'll
right.
admit, and it's skipping ahead, but in the first watch, I was really bothered by the tombstone not being Aunt May and Uncle Ben. I was really bothered by May Parker not having a Ben Parker tombstone next to it.
Oh, I wasn't.
Because there isn't.
Yeah, there is no.
And my brain was like, ooh, that's disrespectful. Then I was like, no, we had an entire scene about Uncle Ben not being
that
a
was
factor.
The whole point. The second.
So my comic brain had to go like, quiet now. And
Yes.
my movie brain, but it was great because the second watch, I was able to go, oh, this is this universe.
Right.
Enjoy this take.
Because the second she says, "With great power comes great responsibility," that told me there is no Ben in this.
Yep.
In this,
And that
I agree.
beautifully worked for me.
because and then it's referenced by both Toby and Andrew, who say, "Oh, for us, it was Ben that said that."
And I love that later we get Andrew saying Gwen because that does change the Martin Sheen
that
dynamic,
moment.
which is we'll get
But
there.
that-
But
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. But
But
the death of Aunt May is, I think, the reason this might beat Spider-Verse for me is because I love Spider-Verse in that it does so many things to get the character right.
Yeah.
But I've never cried during a Spider-Man movie, and I've never felt what I felt in the comics for the loss of Spider-Man until this one.
Yeah,
I got close with Gwen.
It gets you. It has more time than, to be fair to Spider-Verse. It has more time to do that to you.
100%.
And it also has a lot more movies to do that to you because of all the all the
It's the
attachments.
7th or 8th movie, not
So
first.
that's what it has. That's what it has over Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse standing as alone as just a single movie. Of course, I'm agreeing with you that I think out of the both of these movies, this is the one I'll probably go. I love Spider-Verse, but I'll go back and want to watch.
I might watch this
more.
again today.
But that's
I've
just
seen
because
it
it
twice.
has more stuff. Yeah, is it out in theaters already?
It is. Today was the day.
Today's the day.
Today's the day. But I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, if I could find a single seat, like I know it's sold out, but I'm like, it's good, man. I want more.
It's and then that's I plan on going on Saturday and Sunday and just finding time to do that. But yeah, I Kristian heard me. Like I was trying to stifle it, but I couldn't. Like I was a mess.
I heard you. I don't know where. If I probably see, I can hold that stuff in because I'm cold. I'm dead inside. But
New York, we get it.
But I don't know if you could tell where it got me, when it got me. But there was one particular moment that I'll get into in a little bit. But this was the thing. He's out. He's done. This sets us up.
Yeah.
This is the big setup because now he's gone, and now that Peter Parker that we've known that tries to help everybody and he's trying to figure it out. Who wanted to save? Who took the box away just to make sure, because he did not want these characters to die. He didn't want to send them back, knowing he could have fixed them. That's gone. Yeah. He's now just pure anger and rage because he feels that he's once again responsible.
Dude, this moment for me, I think why it hit me so hard. My best friend out of college, his mom had been fighting cancer. She beat it 6 times. This is her 7th bout with cancer. And a doctor messed up and gave her the wrong dosage. Oh man! So then she had a massive heart attack, and then that was it. And it was the same thing for him, where his mom was the thing that kept him in check, and it kept him together. And after that, I mean, he's doing great now, but at the time, he was a ball of rage for years because that was the one thing. So it really affected me, because I remember we had just graduated, we had moved in. And I remember the phone call he got. And I remember like he was in shock. He punched like through a door, and like I didn't know what to say to him. And it drained me, because she was like a surrogate mother to me too. Of course. So that's why this took me out so hard, and it was done so, because the same language Tom was using of like, no, quit playing, like, come on. Yeah. Same thing. He was like, no, what are you talking about?
Right.
She was just going in for a routine.
Because it's denial, and that's one of the reasons why a particular scene hit me a different way, was that when this happens, he goes off, and now we get to our moment, because now you have MJ and Ned who just want to find their friend.
Yeah.
They know how hurt he is. They know, they can feel it. They just want to be there for their friend. So at this point, we've kind of, I think, figured out that Ned could do the magic at one point. I'm not sure.
He was a sparky hand thing when they were.
Oh, right. He did a couple of those things. So and now we get to the part we've already addressed it. He's opening up portals, whatever. But he's like, I just wish we could find Peter Parker. And do that again.
Yeah.
I just wish we could find Peter Parker. And then you see that figure in the back. Now, Winston called it right away. And a part of me was like, nice call. And part of us was like, why don't you just let me enjoy that?
My bad, dude. My bad. It's because Andrew, just his height and the shape of his head.
Yeah.
You can immediately tell all 3 of them differently.
Yeah.
But it got me excited when you said it, because and I'm like, oh, you're right.
So I had
Garfield, dog.
I had a moment like you did. I saw it. My manager's phone went off right as the portal opened, and he lit up. And I was like, if you take your fucking phone out, I'm going to fucking kill you. I literally like whispered that at him.
That's 4.
That was real. Those were deserved. I did. The impact was important, but I literally had the same thing. I was like, this is the most important moment of my life. If you ruin this for me right now, I swear. And I don't know that I've ever felt that big of a swelling of emotion in a movie since, like, I mean, the Thor landing in Endgame, Cap wielding the shield in Endgame, like those moments. But this was tied to my childhood. Like, this was such my entire life led to this.
So different from because this was why people didn't know when there was rumored how these 2 guys were going to be in the movie. It was like, how long? Is it going to be like a cameo thing? It's going to be, and thank God I was right. There was no freaking Spider-Ham in this movie. But anyway, but I love Spider-Ham, but it's not for this movie.
That's Peter Porker, totally different, man.
But but the idea was how they were going to make this work. At the point when they got here, they had already set up things so great that it made sense of how these guys were going to work into this movie if they did it the right way, and they do it the right way. Perfect. So he comes in, and this scene, you talk about the humor in this movie combined with the emotional moments. And Garfield comes in, reveals his face. This reminds me of wrestling also too. It's just like, we haven't seen one of the old school kind of wrestlers in a long time.
Oh my God, Stone Cold!
Yeah.
Stone
He's
Cold!
Back. He's back! Oh my God, it's Garfield! It's Garfield! And he does, and he comes back in and he does his moment, but then he's just like, you're not Peter Parker. He's like, yeah, well, I kind of am. And then he's like, prove it. And he does this. She's like, that doesn't prove anything.
No, crawl on the ceiling.
Well, no, first he goes, this doesn't prove anything.
Yeah. This is plenty.
Crawl. And it's that classic Garfield Spider-Man that we got, that he, to this day, out of the 3 of them, he still has the best wit.
I stand by it. This is probably where you want to get your questions in about my thoughts on certain trio.
But we haven't revealed him yet.
Okay, well, in the next 5 minutes. But I will say, with this Garfield reveal, as soon as he showed up, I was like, I'm Spider-Man. And like, I stayed that way for the next hour and a half. Like, as soon as he showed up, I was like, I now know the truth.
But you know what they did though, Coy, even though that's obviously a funny bit, but the thing is, they made it so that everybody can have a Spider-Man.
Oh, 100%. Anyone can wear the mask. Anyone can watch that.
Yeah, and they made it that here's your 3. These are the 3.
Yeah.
They all count now.
And they're all different. And that's what I like about them all. We got to see them
beforehand, but like, it's different now because, like I said before, now when you go back and you watch the Raimi ones you watch. They all tie into this movie now. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant move. That ties in,
dude. They literally all got like stars in Mario, bro. Like all of a sudden, even if you were like, I'm about to die right here, all of the bad movies got a massive level up.
Yeah. They are. This is not
like Thor: Dark World, where they made it like, oh, look what we fixed.
Now
this is not a 3-movie set. This is an 8-movie set.
Yeah.
It completely is, because of all the references that come in. Will you be lost if you haven't seen the movies? No. But if you have seen all of them, after doing that rewatch that we did,
it's so much
it was so much more relevant.
I agree. I would say you at least need to watch the 2 Tom Hollands.
I do all of them.
You mean
you did not get lost? Yes.
You need to at least see the 2 Tom Hollands.
Of course.
But it's better if you watch everything.
My premiere date, the girl I brought hadn't seen anything since Spider-Man 2. She didn't see Spider-Man 3. She hadn't seen Amazing 1. Hadn't seen Amazing 2. Hadn't seen Tom. Hadn't seen Tom. Loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
So like I'm the rare exception of I literally was like, as soon as the credits were like, what was that for you?
Yeah.
She said
was that for the movie or something else?
I'm gonna just give Kristian MVP of the day.
Whoa.
I'm like.
Thank you.
He's on Alpha Brain or something. I'm just giving kids.
Go ahead and take me out.
Yeah,
dog.
man. Go ahead
and finish me, bro. Because Kristian did it. Just go.
That was a beautiful organic web fluid reference. I want to say in.
Come on, Winston. You're on the clock.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
You're on the clock. Oh man! All right, so
we'd like to trade our first round draft joke.
Sure. So you get 10% off at DraftKings.
Hadn't seen most of the movies, but is a comic nerd and loves the comics and loves the world. So she was like, she actually was able to love Tom Holland immediately, and now I want her to watch Homecoming and Far From Home.
Yeah.
To see her experience of it, because she immediately understood Garfield's whole thing, because he's got that to me, the reason Garfield's my favorite is when he puts on the Spider-Man suit, it's still the same neurotic thing. It's just defensive humor, but when he's Spider-Man, he's self-deprecating and he's self-effacing. And to me, Spider-Man, if you stay too similar in and out of the suit, it's not the character.
Sure.
And I feel like Tom, it's really ironic to me. Everyone's like, Andrew Garfield was too cool. I'm like, no, he was a defense mechanism. He was skateboarding to try to be comfortable. He was doing all these things that weren't cool. It was dismissive. Well, and then Tom, to me, is cool. Like, Tom is like...
Though. But this is the other difference, though. This is why you can say that in every single... This is what they did so well for all these movies. Even if you feel that Peter Parker is too cool, right? That's how he is in that universe.
Right. It's all subjective.
And it's like, well, he's a little too angry in the Raimi ones.
Universe.
That's how he behaved in that universe.
Yeah.
And in this, they set that up.
It's all accurate.
And it's not, people are like, oh, but that's easy to say. You can say that about any character. No. Because that's not set up in any other movie. But it's set up in this movie.
The multiverse is real for this.
Here's the other brilliance. And again, you don't have to watch this, but it helps explain this. If you have seen Loki, it also sets that up, because all the Lokis, there is a specific element of Loki that is true to all of them. But alligator Loki is different than Selvey, is different than Loki, is different than...
I had a question for
President
both of you guys. Wait, both of you guys, because I don't know, and I feel like it's no, but the thing that Ned has, not
Sling Ring.
Not Ned.
Spider-Man?
Yes, that he gives him to shoot back in. Is that an Eternals thing?
No, that's definitely. I see where you're getting that, because this type of iconography, but it's definitely like a Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange just did a spell.
I figured it just looked like something that the Eternals
see that.
Show.
But all right, so back to the moment. So Garfield is there, and he's
cleaning
the grandma.
And the grandmother.
Oh my
man,
God. All this stuff is like, she says, "Can you get up since you made a? Can you go up there and clean up the cobwebs since you're up there?" And he's like, "Ugh." Yeah. And I love how his respect for his elders is what makes him do it. He's not gonna let some child tell him to crawl around.
But he'll go take care of grandma.
Says, "Can you clean this?"
He's like, respect for it, and then it's like, okay, well, that's not. We need to find him, so just keep trying it until you do it. The second they say that, what's coming next.
And then Andrew making that face of like, we need the real Peter Parker, and Andrew to me that felt like what he heard for years. Andrew Garfield was told that as Spider-Man for years.
But what's interesting about this is the fact that, like, knowing that, is it because Ned and MJ said that's not Peter Parker, that's why they start flinging at each other, because they fight for half a second.
Yes, because the whole when he comes in, he's like, that's not our friend, and he's like, oh, that's not your. And they start shooting at each other.
It's like a Western defense mechanism.
They find out what it is. And what I really thought was great was, and we get to the funniest line of the whole movie in a second. But when they're fighting, and then Toby is not in a costume. I'm like, oh, maybe he doesn't want to put on the costume. It plays to the future when what does he call him? He calls him a
youth pastor.
He calls him a youth pastor.
Cool youth pastor.
No, that was after they left the
that was
high
later.
school,
That
right?
that was later.
That was later on.
Yeah.
So are you going to suit up for battle? Or are you going to
dress
walk
like a
around
cool
like a cool
youth
youth
pastor?
pastor?
That was amazing.
Hilarious. And so any of that, and so we get back to that thing where they have to figure it out.
Yep.
They got to figure out what's going on, and then
Portal
they
opens
all
up behind this time.
They all work together and figure out we're going to help your friend. He's like, well, where would you go? For me, it was the Empire State Building. For me, it was the Chrysler Building.
It was a better view.
Yeah.
I bet you love that part.
It was
bro.
like everything when they were going like that chemistry right away that they had. You're like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
They set this up already. This is going to be fun. Just wait until they get Tom involved. Like, let's go see your friend. So this is the moment to me that really got me, the one that I started to choke up at, because there is a moment, and I don't know, and you clearly from the story you just told, you have felt this. I don't know if anybody has felt the loss of somebody or real grief. There is a feeling that you don't really want to have somebody feel. I hope that everybody is going to feel it one time in their life, maybe more. But there is it's just an indescribable feeling. So when Tom Holland is on that roof and he is just overtaken by it, I right away went back to when my brother passed away. Like I felt it right away. It was that same feeling because that is what that guy brought out. Like I was like, that's real grief that he feels right now. I don't know where he went, the actor. I don't know where he went to feel that, but I've been there. Yeah. And he's doing it. And then this just wonderfully sweet moment of the three of them. They don't say hugging. It's this hug, and I got to tell you, Ned's not my favorite character. I think he's a good character. He's just not my favorite. He's a little annoying to me sometimes. What he's doing and the way he's just holding on to his friend. I focused in on him when I saw him because he's just had this big bear hug, and then obviously the three of them together. It was such a great moment, and they didn't have to do anything yet with our two guys until they did.
Yeah.
And they go, well, there's people here to see you. There's people. And he's like, people? What are you talking about?
That shot, that silhouette shot of two Spider-Men on the thing. And we kept getting those moments of like pure comic iconography, but this was so weighted in sorrow. And I think that one of the things I've been missing from the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies is, yes, we lost Iron Man, so there's sorrow there. Yes, we've lost this, there's sorrow there. But like, there's a depth of grief in this scene that feels so like Spider-Man is about loss.
And they tell him that.
To see this scene with two Spider-Men in silhouette, which is Spider-Man can be a really dark character. So we've got that image, and then we've got grief-ridden Tom. It is the most Spider-Man I've felt in a live-action movie. It is because they all relate to it, basically saying we've been there, dude. Yeah. Like for me, it was Uncle Ben, and I remember thinking, and well, it was Uncle Ben for him too, but he's like Gwen Stacy.
Gwen, and I think, that because I think what they did for the perfect setup for that, and it was actually something you text us a couple while I was in Vegas, so I just couldn't respond.
That scene with the death.
The scene of him just standing outside, continuously outside of Gwen's. It's not obviously that Peter doesn't care about Uncle Ben but that one just. True. That's because in the comics too, it truly defines
in the Silver Age comics, and honestly, it actually defines comic books in a really big way. Amazing Spider-Man 122, when Gwen Stacy died, was so big for comic books. Comic books went from the Silver to the Bronze Age within 6 months, and actually changed size. Yeah. Comic books were an eighth of an inch on the top and a quarter inch wider, physically bigger in the Silver Age of comic books. The death of Gwen Stacy was, in my opinion, so big that it changed comic books. So I would say, Uncle Ben, giant, impactful. The reason we have Spider-Man is great power, great responsibility, but Uncle Ben was the beginning of the journey of grief. Right. And I would say that without Gwen Stacy, we don't have Mary Jane.
Well, they even say that, and they say that whole thing, said Gwen was my MJ, is what he says, and then he's like, well, for me, it was Uncle Ben, because because Toby even makes reference to, well, MJ and I, we worked it out, and again, everything's going good. Which, you see, and this is something we got to get into the Toby conversation, because this version of Peter Parker, this is a guy that is in his 40s and is now like he's past all that anger and the selfishness and the things that we had the problem with.
That's what was so cool is watching a 40s Spider-Man, watching like a late 20s, early 30s Spider-Man, and then this kid and like the three, like they mentioned later, I always wanted brothers. This idea that these three, and that's what did it for you, huh?
Yeah, it was. To me, it was that once we've established a relationship between the three of them, they're brothers. And they're related in a way, you know, to where it's the older brother, and it was so relevant to the Spider-Man stuff because if you listen to any stuff that you have, like whether you have grievances about Tobey or not, Andrew Garfield has always said that the second that he got the role, Tobey was very supportive of him, told him do your thing, and then Andrew Garfield did the same thing to Tom. So now the fact that the three of them are basically doing that same thing and making reference to the way that they did it and to their movies, and even when Tobey cracks himself when he's look, this is what I have to bring up because but wait, I might have to stay. I want to stay in the scene though before we go to that. So when they're basically telling him because Andrew has that emotional tell him about Gwen Stacy, and then Tobey talking about Uncle Ben and saying I know you got the rage and you want to take him out, but we got to do this together. And it's that moment of okay, now we know these guys are going to work together. Yeah.
And that scene for me was not just impacting for Tom Spider-Man, it was impacting for all the movies and for the mythos of Spider-Man. Like it gave us every bit of those movies landing who Spider-Man is retroactively and going forward. So to me, that did what Endgame did in fixing continuity issues, but in a 24-year span.
Crazy.
Like it's insane what they accomplished.
And they go to and they start making this, and that's when we now transition to them now having to work together in the lab and do all of that. Yeah. Great lines, great back and forth.
We got the point.
Watching all of the point
when
everybody keeps saying that there's one later with them when they're
on
like,
the roof. There's another one too.
Sure, but I thought this was the one with Peter Parker. Who?
Peter.
And they did it. They didn't have to do it by the trash cans. They did it in the lab. But the one thing that I want, there's a few things that I wanted to see that I was bummed that we didn't see. Like I wanted to see Tobey look at JJ and go, he looks the same now than he did in mine. That would have been fun. But what I really love that I said they have to make reference. I think we said this in the rewatch. They have to make reference that these guys are shooting.
And it came up twice.
Bro, it was great.
Both times.
Where does it come? You just make it? Does it ever come out anywhere else? Do you ever have any issues sometimes?
And Tobey's delivery is fantastic.
This is the best I've ever liked Tobey.
And he's just
that's what I need to ask you.
Okay, so is that? I've been wondering this whole time. What was your?
I asked Kristian in the middle of the screening. I was like, I wonder how Coy's gonna feel about this because I honestly feel like this is a whole new bag.
This is Tobey Maguire. I think this is how other people have seen Tobey Maguire Spider-Man that I was unable to see. I'm going to give full credit. He is on record not my favorite Spider-Man. This portrayal of Spider-Man by a 40-year-old, well now 50, but playing 40-year-old Spider-Man is the character I think that other people saw.
He's not 50. He's not 50.
He's not fitting?
No, he's probably.
I thought him and DiCaprio had just hit 50.
46.
Oh,
okay. Either way, like this mature Tobey Maguire. Is exactly what I think I wanted out of the ones that when I rewatched I felt less and less of. So this character was great.
I think the two things there probably is A, they're kind of making him play angsty teen, and he really since he was so far removed from it, I don't necessarily know if it worked. And B, again, we were complaining about not seeing the scientist, and the fact he's like, I've been thinking about if I ever had another shot, I'm gonna go make this anti-serum for him. I think I can really do it. And I was like, look at him out here doing chemistry.
Immediately, it was all the things I wanted out of Tobey Spider-Man. And to this day, seeing all three of them side by side, and this was one of my only concerns going in, because the rumors were loud that three of them were in it. I was like, will it work that everyone will love them together because they play Spider-Man so differently? A part of me was worried that it'd be like, ooh, these Spider-Man meshing.
But it was the sibling.
It was the opposite.
They embraced
chemistry.
It was a meta. It was very meta. The way that the way that they approached it, of the way that these guys played Spider-Man, the way that they were perceived as Spider-Man, the problems that some people had with all of the Spider-Man together and infused it in the storyline was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was brilliant the way that they did it, because then it was like, and then we lead to that line of, all right, let's get into battle, let's fight these guys. And it's like, are you going to actually dress up, or are you going to go as the cool youth pastor? and Tobey was never the guy that was like, that he was in the
never
movies.
A showboat.
He had grown so much from that. Peter Parker had grown so much that he was just like, relax. And then even when they're busting his not even busting his chops on the bridge, he thinks they are. When he's like, they go back to the
webbing thing. He's like, you guys making fun of me?
And he's like, no, I'm legit. Like, I really want to know. Like, they're not breaking each other's chops, because that could have gotten old really quick.
Yeah.
They're just playing with each other, but having fun, having conversations, very curious on how it all works. And it led to it. Even Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3. That got a little confusing, though, to figure out who was who.
I love Peter 3, though, because Andrew Garfield being the Spider-Man that I see him as is self-deprecating. Peter 3, like, there was such a great moment of like, that's my guy.
Yeah, no, it was because a lot of people have said that though, even though we feel differently, and I think you would too. A lot of people have been like, I think Tom Holland's the first one, and that exactly, and that a lot of other people that are obsessed with the Raimi ones have said. So that's almost the ranking at which people.
And that's what's so funny to me, and that's why Andrew saying that almost to camera, and that being also his character. It was appropriate in our reality and this movie's reality and Tom's reality.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And what did they? And they had that
the Rhino joke was genius.
The Rhino joke was.
Oh my god!
What's the craziest villain you guys fought?
The black alien goo. I fought a guy in space. You've been to space.
Let's not leave out the Avengers.
The Avengers.
That was the best one.
Okay, I've always done this solo. I don't know what to do. Well, okay, I've been on the Avengers. Like
you were with the Avengers. And again, going back to the fact they weren't messing with them.
Yeah,
you're like, the Avengers?
You're in a band?
And Toby made a joke. Toby made a joke about the Avengers that landed.
Band? That's so cool. It's like, no. It's like the Earth's mightiest Avengers.
He's like, we don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. Is that relevant right now? Like, Toby making jokes is the Spider-Man that I honestly think this was the movie that everyone else saw these Sam Raimi movies as. And to me, this was the three of them at their best. All three of them gave their best Spider-Man performance.
You know why? All three of them were having a lot of fun.
They were just having the time of their lives. I guarantee you.
Because Andrew's such a big fan of Toby and Tom and vice versa.
And I think both of them, like you said, like obviously Tom is excited because this is a big culmination and all that. But the other two, watching it and knowing how iconic this was going to be, they were like, let's just
This is the biggest moment of our lives. Let's suit up.
The back cracking.
The back cracking. And that being a reference to the Seabiscuit pain and the Spider-Man 2 and Andrew helping. Yeah. And then like Andrew helping him and knowing exactly what that feels like because they're the aging Spider-Man. Like all of that was just so perfect.
That's what I mean. It all played in because the way that they wrote it in was that if you really paid attention to everything that was going on with the casting of these guys and all this stuff, you'll get it. And if you didn't, it's just fun. It's part of the plot.
Look at three Spider-Men playing.
It's just part of the plot playing.
Yeah.
So then they start fighting. They get the fight between the villains. They're coming in, and then they start picking them off, doing all that, and then here comes the Goblin again.
Yeah.
And the Goblin coming in, and the Goblin now, when he grabs, and now because Peter here's the main moment, right? He goes and he's about to get MJ, she falls, Goblin comes in, swoops him out, and then Andrew Garfield jumping in and doing it. But a lot of people had said, I think that's Garfield doing it, but it's something you can predict it all day long. But when actually seeing it and feeling it,
the crowd erupted.
Yeah, because when he did it, and it again shows you how great Garfield is. It was everything. He didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Just in his eyes, he's just like, it was sorrow, it was happiness, it was everything that he needed to do because it was a thing that has been haunting him forever.
We saw closure.
I'm really sorry because I went back into my black man talking mode where I was just like, redemption. I don't know if you heard these. I definitely, as soon as he caught her and then landed and he started crying, I just said, redemption.
Yeah. Dude, that moment meant the world to me. I needed that moment so bad. I loved
battle,
it so much.
And then we get to the part when Goblin and him are fighting on that sand, wherever the hell they're fighting, and the Captain America shield thing.
That was really funny when they were like, they're going to deface
another national monument,
and then it falls off.
Yeah, literally, Jonah's saying, and now Spider-Man's going to deface another national monument is from the comics. Like that is directly as perfect.
So they have this battle. They're fighting on the sand, or whatever it is, and then Toby says, not Toby, Tom says, "I'm going to kill you." And
good. He went full Emperor. Good.
And that a boy.
And the way they're fighting, the brutality. What I love about Spider-Man is that like he is so close to the edge at all times. Like the reason I've always defended the Clone Saga because to me that's an existential crisis. It wasn't written that way, but I always saw the Clone Saga as with great power comes great responsibility. What if you took that responsibility too far and kind of snapped and you needed an escape? And then you've got this guy that's running around blonde and happy. It's like a midlife crisis character.
It's Batman as well. It's the same thing where it's like you have to draw the line in the sand somewhere and you have done the one thing that you can't do. And so like you said, watching that and the fact that, and I think it was brilliant, that Andrew was the one that had to catch MJ because I think that redemption, I think Toby needed to be the one to stop him because he, of all of them, have seen that rage beyond anything.
So he also caught the glider that killed. It was the moment that he couldn't do with Goblin.
Right.
They all got the moment they couldn't do. He got to stop the glider. He got to catch
stabbed him.
Oh man.
I thought he was gone. I was like,
dude.
What?
I think a lot of people did when he gets stabbed and he falls and then he plays references like I've been stabbed before.
Am I dying or is that real?
He was
so funny in this.
Yeah, he let the whole audience know very quickly like, oh, is he dead? He's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And so when all that happens and all that plays and then when Andrew throws him the thing and he takes him out and he comes back. The way that they played it, and then Doc Ock obviously coming in, nobody was fooled, right? That Doc Ock, nobody was fooled because.
But it makes sense. Electro's ego would be though, like that played for my storyline.
It worked to me that the villains were fooled,
right?
It didn't work. It didn't. If they were trying to fool us, that wasn't.
I wasn't sure because remember the reason
their whole plan would be crap though.
No. I know that. I'm saying you thought that he was dead.
No. I'm saying that there is no way that he was coming back a villain.
But this is why I wasn't sure because I don't know if you remember.
Electro zapped him. You were afraid.
Exactly.
I had a moment of that.
So the reason in Spider-Man 2 he had that energy feedback that blew up the chip, and that's why the arm started talking to him.
So when Electro zapped him,
Electro zapped the hell out of him. I thought he fried the chip.
Well, they went quick with it though.
Yeah.
I thought maybe, and then they'd show the back of his neck or something. But I was very happy that it wasn't.
Turns them all, and it was great. So then, obviously, the redemption.
Also,
happens.
the lizard fighting Tobey Maguire Spider-Man made me so happy because that was supposed to happen for 4 years.
Oh right.
Like when we saw him in the old Sam Raimi suit fighting the lizard, I was like, it was like a Dylan Baker moment. Like finally, lizard.
That's why I want to go back and watch this movie again. But
they picked the opposite villain.
Things start breaking through, and the walls, and they show the silhouette of Rhino and
Craven.
So you did see Craven?
I saw Craven, Rhino, and I think Scorpion.
Okay.
I thought I saw another Mysterio. I swore I saw the fishbowl head.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I can't wait to frame by frame this beast.
Stuff, yeah.
That was my other thing that I was curious though. Are we just assuming then that Mysterio dropping the bomb on all of this was the 6 of the Sinister Six? Because we didn't get 6, we got 5.
We got 4.5. I'm really.
Octopus counts. He was fighting for a while.
He was a villain for a bit. I do wonder if down the line we need to maybe bring back the other Spider-Man to fight the Sinister Six or something. Like now that we've met them, will they do? Because I was very public. Like they won't do not Sinister Six. They won't have 5 and not do the 6. They didn't. There was no Sinister Six.
Well,
confusing.
I wonder because then everything starts to crack through. And you're like, how are they going to figure this out? And then. Part of me was like, when they were doing though, when it was cracking through, and Doctor Strange was saying, "All right, well, I don't know how to do this," and he said, "Well, can you make a spell now that basically says that they all forget that Peter Parker exists, or can you do that?" And he's like, "I can do that, and it'll work, but like everybody will." And I thought to myself, "Oh, just ask him to do a couple people," but then we were right back to where we started, so I get it. And then he does, and he has a great moment with Mary Jane, and it reminded me of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yes, very much.
Like when she find me in Montauk, find me in Montauk, come to Montauk.
Say it then.
And this is to me the outside of all the Spider-Man stuff that we talked about. When he comes, when the spell is cast, and he goes to find MJ, and he sees her happy, and he sees that Band-Aid.
It doesn't hurt anymore.
He goes, I can't do this to them.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the Andrew Garfield stuff where Dennis Leary was like, don't get them involved in this. Don't get her involved in this. And he's like, I gotta set you free.
And Spider-Man does that often.
Yeah. And how heartbreaking was it with that scene with him and Happy? Did you think Happy was going to be kind of
maybe? But I think that was that one hurt. But I think that's what Peter needed.
Yeah.
Because I think that making the sacrifice to not bring his friends back in was a lot, and I think. Even though Happy doesn't know who he is, Happy at his core, for all of his faults, is one of the best people in this entire universe.
Took out a lot of memories, though. That spell took out a lot of memories with Happy and Tony, though, because Tony he still knows who Spider-Man is.
So Spider-Man was still there. So you're talking about the moments where we're like in the car driving him around and
all of that. But imagine in your mind, you're like, well, how did Tony get Spider-Man involved? And he's like, well, he's always been involved, but how?
But that's the thing about memory. That is how memory works.
Totally,
all the time, I'm like, how did that happen?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But either way, so then it pretty much wraps, and he has to embrace that he's Spider-Man. I love the J. Jonah Jameson part where they let us know about him. He's like, if he was so heroic,
you take off his mask.
You're like, okay. So
also, the scene way earlier, when he's broken and he's standing in front of that giant Jonah yelling at him was such a beautiful comic moment.
It was great.
That was so
the rage in his eyes.
Yeah, that was such a beautiful silhouette.
So then that's the entire movie. So then we get to the really one post scene.
Wait, we didn't talk about one of the best scenes in the movie, the goddamn new costume.
Oh yeah, hit me.
Okay, he made a costume. Well, it isn't powered. He's finally Spider-Man. He's not Iron Man Jr. in any way. He's finally relying on himself.
It's just so shiny.
It is very shiny. But also, it was lit. It was lit in a very shiny area and reflecting off the snow.
But
so there was a lot of lights.
But also, and I forgot the thing that I noticed too. But
we got our Sam Raimi Spidey swinging moment.
I get that. So here's the one thing that I don't think that. So remember, he was swinging and he swung by the tree, and I think I said this to you. at the screener, but maybe I didn't. If you needed to know where everything was going on, and then we got sort of our Sinister Six, but he just doesn't make an appearance, but we got the reference from earlier in the movie, that is the exact same tree and the exact same kind of setup during Hawkeye, when Hawkeye is dealing with Kate. So technically, Kingpin was kind of floating around. He didn't do anything.
There was also a line of dialogue in Hawkeye this week saying, what was it? We got the Rogers musical in the movie, but we also got
the Statue of
Liberty. Yeah, she's talking about adding the shield. Yeah.
So they have that. The Rogers musical exists in the film, and the tree. Those are the three things that immediately let you know, okay, all of this is kind of...
I dig that. I like that a lot.
Happening at the same time.
But that, to me, that suit was so... Amazing Spider-Man 2 is I probably think my favorite suit. I'm going to need to see this one more. Yeah. But this was very much like a mix of Silver Age, like that bright, vibrant blue, the stitching, and it being handmade, homemade. Like he's Spider-Man. He's in an apartment paying monthly cash. Right. No one knows who he is. Right. He's trapped getting his GED. Yeah. He's an adult. To me, the end of this movie is Spider-Man's origin. It took 5 movies. Now we have Spider-Man.
Well, and you're going to get that set. So the first post, really the only post-credit scene, because Doctor Strange, I think, it's a trailer. So the post-credit scene is Tom Hardy sitting
drunk
out of his mind. What I loved about it is such a different type of villain, right? Because the thing is, he's sitting there and he's not there to go. He doesn't care about going after him. He's there to get hammered. Yeah. And they even learned to go find this Peter Parker kid. He's like, well, we just got here, and they're disappearing. And leaving the symbiote behind.
It's a new trilogy, man.
What it means is that, okay, well, we can have Venom in this.
We can have a new Venom. We can have the black suit. Venom is like the Phoenix Saga. It's a trilogy.
Yeah.
Stop making it one movie. The Phoenix Saga, you need to love Scott and Jean. You need to grow to the Phoenix. All that. With Spider-Man, you need a black suit movie. You need to know Eddie Brock. You need to have Venom be a third act, third movie. So what you can do now is you introduce, maybe you bring in Gwen Stacy, and Mary Jane doesn't know who Spider-Man is. He falls in love, and then MJ comes back into the picture later. Maybe you bring in him going to college, and he meets all new characters. Maybe he meets his Kurt Connors. Maybe he's teacher there, and you're like, oh, Kurt Connors. You bring in the black suit. You literally can do the Silver Age Spider-Man we've all been asking for in the MCU.
Got to come back.
Well, he's in Morbius, but he's not going to know Peter Parker.
Right. That's right.
He's going to know Spider-Man, but he's not going to know why he's so angry.
It's true. Right.
It's genius. You have the origin of Spider-Man. Yeah. This was an origin movie 5 movies in.
So, Winston, any other
sorry, give me 1 second.
Yeah, because call on this particular thing, because then I think Doctor Strange, this trailer is going to drop probably this week.
I think Monday.
Yeah, it'll drop. So we can dive more into that, because I think that you do see the evil Doctor Strange from What If.
You get a beautiful black, Scarlet Witch, like the new costume and her conjuring and stuff. That's dope.
All that. So and it's more about the multiverse in general.
She's on Mount Wundagore, which is dope.
It also looks like she's not necessarily the villain, which I kind of like.
I do too. I didn't want crazy woman is magic problems.
Yeah, I think because the same way that Doctor Strange unfortunately has messed with some things and all that, but by the fact that we got the Sorcerer Supreme, or Supreme, what were they calling him in What If?
Taco Supreme.
Taco Supreme. Crunchwrap Supreme.
Since Crunchwrap Supreme makes an appearance, we know that maybe Wanda's meddling has something to do with stuff and is bad, but she's not the antagonist here. It really is this evil Doctor Strange.
It's also, if you know, it's fun with knowing the comics that where she is clipping those plants is Mount Wundagore, which is like the source of magic in our planet. It's the closest threshold to a magic source. So I'm really curious if that comes into play.
Well, they set up a lot for the rules in this movie that can pertain to that movie. But either way, guys, that was it. That was our entire Spider-Man series.
I think this is the best Spider-Man movie, especially now talking about it. I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man No Way Home are both 5-star films, which means there are more, to me, Coy's ratings, 5-star Spider-Man movies than any other superhero. Because the only other 5-star superhero movies for me are Dark Knight and Winter Soldier.
I probably would... I already know seeing it a second time I'm going to feel that way. I think talking it out has probably put it where it's gone over the edge for Spider-Verse.
It was 4.5 my first watch. It was really close.
But it was 4.5 my first, so I haven't seen it a second time.
I like the shortness, the briefness of Spider-Verse that still got the job done.
Sure.
But you let the same reason you want to see Star Wars no longer as films, or at least give it some time and let TV shows happen. Yeah. You have an opportunity to breathe. And I think it is possible when Across the Spider-Verse comes out that maybe I flip-flop back if they do a good of enough job. But for the time being, since we really got to breathe and stuff, I think this is my favorite Spider-Man.
So I want to hold on the ranking still.
Yeah, I held till I saw it a second time. I didn't adjust my list till the second viewing.
Okay, I wish I had brought a piece of paper and written this down. I was very curious because we never did.
That's why I want to hold on them.
You're still gonna hold.
I think we hold because
so when do we do it?
I don't know.
That has to be important.
Because I did it. Because I got it a homework assignment.
You know what? All right, go ahead. You do it. You do yours, Coy, first, and then I'll put together mine. I didn't really put it together, but I'll put this is so for people who are wondering. We when we did the rewatch series, we said it's very similar to when we did the Star Wars one. We said we're going to put together our favorite ones. So all right, let's do it. We'll put it, and let's go from worst to first.
Okay. You guys
worst.
Start at worst.
Worst to first. Yes.
It's Spider-Man 3.
So you're going to go first?
Oh, you go for it.
Oh, no. I thought you were just saying one at a time.
This is why I didn't want to do this on the air.
Oh, okay.
We'll do it later.
We're professionals.
We'll do it later.
No,
That's fine.
Coy, do you have it?
Yeah, I got mine.
Right,
my worst is Spider-Man 3. My second worst is Amazing Spider-Man 2. My third worst is Spider-Man Far From Home. Then we have Spider-Man 1, 2002.
Okay.
Then we have The Amazing Spider-Man. Then Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Okay.
Can I just look at this? The visuals will help
Yeah,
me
they
do
got
it.
you. Them posters help.
All right. Well, let's go ahead, Winston.
Okay, so Spider-Man 3 is my worst, followed by Spider-Man 1, then Spider-Man Far From Home, then No, I'm wrong. Sorry, The Amazing Spider-Man, then Spider-Man Far From Home, then Amazing Spider-Man 2, then Spider-Man Homecoming, then Spider-Man 2, then Into the Spider-Verse, and then No Way Home.
All right. So what are there? How many are there total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Should
6,
be 9.
7, 8. So I'm missing one here. So
3 Raimi,
2
2 Garfield, 3
Oh, yeah.
3
And then
Holland.
animated.
I see
in the
where
Spider-Verse.
I see
So
where I
9.
missed it.
Yeah,
I see
yeah,
where I missed
Spider-Verse,
it. All right. Okay. So here is my list right now. So there's 11 of them. So number 11 for me is
9 of them?
9 of them?
9 of them. Did I say 11?
Yes, you did.
9.
Very clearly.
9. Sorry. 9 out of 9. So number 9. Number 9 is Spidey 3. Number 8 is Amazing Spider-Man 2. Number 7 is Amazing Spider-Man. 6 is Spider-Man. 5 is Spider-Man 2. 4 is Far From Home. 3 is Homecoming. 2 is Spider-Verse. And then 1 is No Way Home.
There we go.
Yeah. So that's it.
We did it, guys.
All right.
It'll probably evolve again.
Yeah, I
sure it
guarantee
will.
next
Oh,
year.
did
when
I
we-
tell you something hilarious here, Winston? That just before we sign off, on my review, my non-spoiler review, I saw it twice, and one guy goes, "You're lying. You didn't see this movie," and I go, "What?" He's like, "You didn't see it. You're not telling the truth," and I'm like, "Was that a clone of me sitting in the theater?" I'm like, he's like, "You didn't see it." I'm like, "Okay." And then another guy was like, because I like Tyrone Magnus very well, very much. I know him, and I've been buddies with him for a bit. But this fan was like, "Why? If Tyrone Magnus didn't see it, how come you saw it? You didn't see it. You didn't see it."
Talking about No Way Home.
Talking, I didn't see it.
I love that someone's like, if this one human being hasn't seen it, you can't have it because he controls the internet.
Hilarious. It's hilarious. So you didn't see it? I'm like, okay.
I literally, when I did my TikTok spoiler-free review, I posted a picture of me in the red carpet. I literally wrote receipts because I didn't want that exact thing. So I literally spent 1 second going like,
TikTok review?
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But anyway, listen, that was the review, guys. We did it. It was a long one, but it was worth it. It is the review of Spider-Man No Way Home. Now remember,
Number 1 for all 3 of us, worth noting.
it was. I mean, again,
That's a big thing.
Let's see. But all right, so here's the thing. So besides that, this is when we release this is Monday. Well, tomorrow we got to review The Matrix coming
Yes,
out.
sir.
So there's so much more, and then we're going to do. Coy and I will be doing an episode of Big Thing for spoiler heavy, very similar to this for Matrix next Monday. I'll have a spoiler review of Matrix coming up right after it drops on Wednesday, I believe. So there's so much coming up here, and then I didn't tell Coy this. I have the full season of Cobra Kai that I'm watching.
Yeah.
So I'll be reviewing that.
Good for you.
Boba Fett coming up as well. So there's so much in this channel. Please, if you didn't already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button.
I'll be going to the
that.
Matrix premiere this weekend, so I'll make sure to name drop a lot for
Look
you.
at
Make
you,
sure
please do
that
that.
me and Keanu have a little chat, have some talks,
Yeah.
talk about some Kevin Feige experiences.
You need to do that. So anyway, guys, please,
Just Winston scoffing next to me.
Thank you so much for everything that you've done. Please comment the whole thing. Thank you guys again. Thank you to Winston and Coy for this whole entire series that we did. We got a lot more coming up. We appreciate you. And please comment and subscribe, podcast, all that stuff. We love you guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you on the flip side.
what's probably going to happen is Spider-Man. We watched them all. Spider-Man's your favorite newest one. Come on,